The tea is hot and we are ready to go. Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, JamesBFauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. It is 3 p.m. and it is time to go live. It is January 4th, 2025. Welcome to all of you for coming in and saying hello and all your well wishes. It is deeply appreciated. And I love you all from the top and bottom of my heart. If you guys have not already, go ahead and give a like to the stream. This also helps me out so that you guys so we can reach more people, so that you guys can be more informed and activated. So thank you very much for that there. Also, if you guys would like to, you guys can subscribe to my Substack at Jaybefaunt.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. You guys have that there. And beforehand, you guys, about 20 minutes ago, you guys saw that we were about to do a stream. So just like that, you guys get those email notifications there. Also, if you guys would like to ask me any questions, or if you guys have anything that you would like for me to react to, you guys can actually do that through Q Bounty, and then I will give you a video response or a video reaction to whatever you guys would like to. So you guys can go to qbounty.com/Jaybefaunt there as well. So good to see everybody that's in the chat. Love to all of you who are watching. And as usual, whenever I have a guest, I like to be cognizant and respectful of their time so that we can get to what we need to talk about today. So as many of you guys know, that we're going to be talking about the 2025 predictions that we will be discussing, things that we are anticipating for this year. Based on a lot of the things that have happened within the last year and a lot of things that we are looking forward to, some of the things that we might feel that we might be dreading, you never know. So we'll be talking about all those and more, and some of the things that may have started that kicked us off 2025, because it has been a big kickoff, especially in the news today. So just as without further ado, host of Ethos Media Network, Shane Graham, joins me. So that's who we're going to be speaking with today. I'd like to introduce Shane Graham to the show. Thank you so very much for coming, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. So let me get started off with, so people get to know you a little bit. Shane, let me ask you this. How did you get into this space regarding Ethos Media Network? And was that an undertaking pre-Bernie or post-Bernie, or how did that come about?
Okay, so it was kind of, it's sort of a long story, but I'll try to shorten it as much as possible. Essentially, I'm from Michigan. I'm from the Detroit area. I grew up with a very diverse background. I grew up in a school district that spoke 80 different languages at home. I grew up around Middle Eastern people, Jewish people, Black people, white people, all different religions, everything, right? So that was my understanding of the world, and I just felt like that's how it should be, right? I moved to Arizona, and Arizona is a very conservative place. Even a lot of the younger people who may be more socially progressive or socially left-wing, a lot of times economically, they still, are more conservative or right-wing. So I was running into that a little bit more, and it wasn't, I wasn't really able to articulate my arguments very well. So around this time, this is probably about 10 and 11 years ago, 2013, 2014, that era, I didn't really have the ability to articulate my arguments very well. I just kind of voted the way my parents did and the way my, family did. We're all Democrats. There's got to be a reason for it. So that piqued some of my curiosity into diving a little bit more into politics and why certain people voted the way they did. So that was sort of the start of it. Then Mike Brown happened in St. Louis. And at that time, I was living with, very, very great family. I was renting a room with a family at the time, and it was a conservative family. And so me and the father of the house, the owner of the house, he and I would get into these debates about, was the cop right? Was Mike Brown right? Did he do something wrong? Was the media telling the full story? All of these kind of things, right? So again, that sparked even more curiosity. So at this time, I start discovering, the YouTube left-wing atmosphere at the time. I'll leave names out just because a lot of those people are not who they were at that time. A lot of them changed and they don't deserve shout outs. So, but at the time, there was a growing left-wing atmosphere on YouTube full of these different channels that were all coming out at the time that were really educating and doing deep dives, bringing up articles, showing the details, pointing out where the media was lying, pointing out where the left, or not the left, I'm sorry, pointing out where Democrats were lying, pointing out where Republicans were lying, all of these things. So I felt like that was like the biggest piece of my education was around that time, and it happened to coincide with the rise of Bernie Sanders as well. So that just sort of was a coincidence that I happened to be deep diving into politics around the time that Bernie took off. And then that's when I was exposed to ideas that I didn't even know were ideas outside of the United States. Like I had never heard of single payer healthcare before Bernie. I just kind of assumed this is just how it worked. You know what I mean? This is how it works everywhere, I'm sure. I had never heard, thought of, colleges and universities being paid for the same way that, high school and every other level of education is paid for. Not even an idea that even came into my mind frame. And then when I found out how we could pay for all these things and how expensive the current systems are right now and how much less we would be paying if we change certain things, it just really opened my eyes. And so I started talking about it and people started listening, just in my personal life, friends and family, they were, interested in what I had to say. And I noticed around election times, different people would start hitting me up like, okay, what's up with this candidate? What's this person about? This says this. So, that let me know that I was heading in the right direction. And then I partnered up with The Code worldwide, and we started Ethos Media Network together, which currently we produce 4 shows, and one of which is Politics as Usual, which led me here. So
Yeah, thank you so very much. A lot of us started off within the Bernie movement, especially when I first got my deep dive into politics. It was during the 2018 gubernatorial election between Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis. And in doing so, one of the things that Andrew Gillum was spearheading was Medicare for all at that point in time. So I had no idea that you can have a single payer healthcare system. I didn't realize that ideal was possible, that we can actually have one particular healthcare insurance system for the entire country and everybody pulls into it. And then everybody equally gets the platinum standard of care throughout without you having to worry about co-pays, deductibles, or premiums. And then also including your dental, your vision, your long-term care, and mental health is all included. This was all brand new to me. And so in hearing that, and then next thing you know, I'm getting, here's how far to the right I was back then. I would literally get communists coming into my DM saying, hey man, you need to start thinking about communism because the way you're talking, I'm like, no. I'm like, because I'm thinking the C word. I'm like, oh my God, the communists. Wait, how many years? 5 years later, I'm a communist. That's crazy. But it's the funny part is like when you start to look at ideas and you look at it from a new perspective and you see how it's more logical than the system that we currently live in, then that's when it starts to, you start to get to a point where it's like, well, why haven't we done this before? And then you start to ask the question, who benefits from us not knowing these ideas in the first place?
Yep.
And so if you can also juxtapose this, because most of us who are watching, we have eyes, you're a Black man. So can you juxtapose your evolution as well with being a Black man in America and how how that has helped you develop your politics a little bit further in relation to that, because I know you talked about Mike Brown being shot, and but how has that affected you in a more personal, deep way?
I would say, well, just using that as an example, the frustration that it caused when I was trying to explain to somebody that he didn't have to die. I don't care what he did. He didn't have to die.
Yeah.
The frustration of just getting the person to just admit that without, the flex of wanting to defend the authority, in this case, the police.
Yeah.
That just frustrated me. So I almost at that point made it like a personal mission to try to convince as many people that will listen about whatever the idea is. That's just one example. A recent example would be healthcare. I know we're going to get into it. But I posted a meme on my Facebook that said, it said, I'm paraphrasing, but it said something to the effect of, I get sick, I have to go to my doctor. My doctor tells me what I need, and then we both ask the insurance company if they'll pay for the thing the doctor says I need. Freedom, right? So that was the meme. Somebody jumped on my status and just was arguing me down about why a socialist healthcare system wouldn't work and why the government's inefficient and all of this kind of stuff, right? And so we're going back and forth for about 3 days on this status. And I'm giving them numbers. And I'm like, hey, the estimates show that it would be about $1 billion cheaper than what we're paying in the system right now if we replaced it with quote unquote socialist healthcare. And, now some people, now here's the 50-50 of that, right? Because I was actually debating this with 2 different people on that same status. One person took my argument and let it just was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because they were like, I don't want the government to take over my healthcare. And I said they wouldn't take over your healthcare, they would just pay for it. That's it. That's the only, and they'd be able to negotiate prices so that everything would actually be overall cheaper rather than have a middleman in the middle that has to inflate everything because there's profit incentive. I'm explaining this, one person took it, the other person just kept arguing me down. So, before my mission would have been to try to convince that person, but if you're so stubborn and in your ways, there's a different strategy that, we have to employ. So, but as I guess to answer your question, because I just said a lot there. So, I mean, my personal feelings, with the Mike Brown situation, of course, it's that could be me situation. But again, it was really the frustration of trying to convince people that this is a real fear that a lot of us have, when it comes to police, again, specifically in the Mike Brown situation. Every time I step out the door, this is something that I have to deal with that you don't necessarily, as a white conservative older man, have to deal with. You know what I mean? Like I'm the one that when I'm waiting at the bus stop, the police slow down when they're driving by the bus stop and they're looking at me and then they keep driving. I don't see them do that to other people when they're waiting at the bus stop. So what's that about? I don't know anybody else who's been pulled over walking down the street before. I have twice. So
I've been stopped at the gas station.
So, just tell me what that is, I did a whole video breaking down white privilege and concrete examples of what it is. So I, as a black man, and that has shaped my politics a lot because it seems like one side understands what I'm saying and they empathize with what I'm saying. And even if they can't all the way relate to it, they're like, no, but he's being real though. Like what he's saying is true. And then another side wants to deny it for whatever reason. So that's how it personally impacts me, I guess would be the best way to answer that.
Yeah, that's a really good synopsis, and I appreciate you, expanding on that. From a Black perspective, one of the things that I say this, and some people, particularly even Black people, would probably get mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to be able to make a statement, and some will disagree, some will agree. But I said, no educated, self-respecting Black person would ever support a capitalist system. The reason why I say that is because this is the whole entire reason as to why our ancestors were brought here in chains in the first place. It was really a labor issue to grab another people, to have them do free labor so that all of the surplus value of that labor goes to the top.
Mm-hmm.
It is slightly a little bit better under wage slavery, but it is still slavery nonetheless. Wage slavery is a little bit more improved than chattel slavery. But the thing is like, this is why I say that capitalism in itself is about who owns what. And if you have a person at the top, that singular person at the top that owns it, then there is a diametrically opposed bottom who are, the top is trying to make as much profit as they can by paying as least as they can. And the bottom is trying to make as much as they can. They're trying to get paid as much as they can while doing the least amount of work for the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that within the capitalist system is that they have been the ones in the ruling, especially when it comes to because a lot of people talk about the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War was really just a bourgeois war. I'm trying not to use all the big words, but it's really a war of the people, the owner class, more or less, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how did it benefit the workers? How did it benefit people that look like you and me? It really didn't benefit us post-Revolutionary War. Things started to become more better for us, within the Civil War. But even still, it's like this system has run out its usefulness, right? Because it was useful for white people between the late 40s, early 50s, up until about the 70s. That's where it was useful. Well, about the 80s, it was useful for white people, but now it's not useful for white people either. And so now they're starting to see exactly what you and I see,
mm-hmm.
what our parents and our grandparents have been going through. And so it's like, now you got a lot of them going, oh my God, this system is unsustainable. And we've been trying to tell you for damn near 400 years. And so now they're just now catching up. Go ahead. I know you want to.
No, a lot of things that are happening right now are just a lot of duh moments for me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things that I'm saying, and some of which that we're gonna get into. I'm just like, yeah, what did you expect? Like, I'm not surprised at all. So yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And while we're talking about it, let's start getting into healthcare because I want to get into this part. And so, of course, a lot of people, I'm going to start off in the middle. We're going to talk about Luigi Mangione. Of course, he allegedly did what he did last year. I'm not going to say that he actually did it because there are some things that just don't seem right. It's like, was he actually the person who shot the United Healthcare CEO? I have my doubts.
My boy pled not guilty, so he's not guilty.
Yeah, I mean, innocent until proven guilty, right?
There you go.
And even here's the crazy part. I'm going to start off on the surface. What do you say to the people who said that this is a discussion about murder, not healthcare? What do you say to people who say something like that?
That's that's you're purposely deflecting from the subject matter of what we're trying to discuss. And I think those people know that that's what they're doing. But and this is actually something I thought about earlier, and this is something I want to get your take on as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that a lot of the people who are really defending the healthcare CEO and just vociferously defending that murder's wrong, and no matter what the system, he just has a job to do, and that's wrong that he was like those people who that's the crux of their argument, and they're barely even acknowledging the other side. I would be willing to bet that a lot of those people also support the death penalty.
Well, it's too stock.
I would be willing to bet, right? And so, who is a better candidate for the death penalty than somebody who is directly responsible for the deaths of 40,000 people per year? I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
United Healthcare CEO. That's the insurance company that I have. Funny enough, And around the time, you know, right after this happened, I heard that very little claims were getting denied. You know, I don't know how long that lasted or if that's
I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
for a couple days or a week or so after Luigi did allegedly did what he did. I heard that the claim denial rate dropped to like below 5% or something like that. So
What? Oh my goodness.
Point of all of this is, first of all, this is a very expected result. When you put a dog in a corner, eventually he's going to bite.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When you shove people down so much, when you flaunt your wealth in front of people who don't have it so much, because these are companies that are constantly posting their quarterly, how much revenue they're making every quarter. These reports are public. We all know how much money they're making. So for 33, between 33 and 35% of all of your claims to be denied, and for that to coincide with the amount of profit that you were making quarter on quarter, this is the expected result. We see it happen in other countries all the time. We're just shocked when it happens here because it doesn't happen here. I'm going to rephrase how I was going to say that, but it doesn't happen here very often. I'll say it like that. So when it happens in France, we're like, oh, France, they're protesting and they're wilding out again. And we kind of almost make a joke about it because of how often it happens over there. But they do it so much because it works. Every time they protest and we hear about it over here, whatever it is that they're protesting gets changed almost immediately. So that's a good example of what you're seeing right here. Revolution oftentimes is violent. Mm-hmm. And nobody likes to admit that part. Everyone reads about it in history class and everybody, you know, different things like that. But unless you have actually lived through revolution, you don't know how violent it can actually be. So this is what it looks like. It looks like people dying. It looks like people getting shot. That's what revolution actually looks like. And so, of course, when I say, you know, so of course, I'm not celebrating the murder of this individual. Because if you notice, I haven't even used his name the whole time I've been talking. I don't know his name. I don't remember his name because his name is irrelevant to the conversation. His name could be Brian Williams. His name could be Eddie Johnson. His name could be Quentin Tarantino. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't matter. His name could be whatever his name is. It's his position that is the problem. The fact that he's the CEO of a for-profit health insurance company that was the most profitable health insurance company of all of them, who denies the highest amount of claims out of all of them, which again was between 33 and 35%, if I'm not mistaken. So it could have been anybody in that position. It's the fact that it's the CEO of that company, what that represents. That was the issue. I'm not happy about the individual, the dad, the husband who, you know, got killed, or the son who's not going to have a father now, or the wife who's missing a husband. That's not what we're talking about. Because again, it could be anybody in that position. That's not what we're quote unquote celebrating. We're celebrating the fact that A, it's a conversation now that you have to take serious. B, if that was true about the fact that all those claims all of a sudden stopped being denied, that's a good thing for those people. And B, that proves to you that the companies can do the right thing if they choose to, and they're choosing not to. So, and it also exposes people like Elon Musk who come out and make flagrant statements like, well, these are for-profit companies, and of course they're going to do everything they can to, you know, produce the most profits for their shareholders, even if they have to employ ruthless tactics sometimes. Grow up. That's what Elon Musk said. So when you say that in the face of, again, 40,000 people a year whose families are affected because their husbands and sons and moms and all of that are passing away because they can't afford the healthcare. When you say ruthless tactics for your profits, I say this is what ruthless tactics on the other side looks like. You're on mute.
Trying to be responsible. But as far as, you know, this whole thing with Luigi Mangione, allegedly, this is because people will talk about this is a murder. This is a conversation about murder, not healthcare. I say it is both. Because who is the person was being murdered before Brian Thompson was ever gunned down? It was the 40,000 people. So this is a murder conversation. But the problem is that people have more emphasis on the life of one man versus the life of everybody else's mother, brother, sister, brother, father, and grandma, and son and daughter. That's the issue, is the prioritization of one life of somebody who has amassed a huge amount of wealth over everybody else. That is unsustainable. And so it's like, for instance, I'm not going to want the priorities of somebody like an Elon Musk. I'm not going to prioritize his life over the life of somebody I love simply because he amassed a whole bunch of wealth. Because his importance is not more than my loved one. Just like according to his sons and according to his family members, his life is not more important. I'm sorry, the life of my family is not more important than his. But the thing is that there has to be an equality and an equity that happens within this country. And it just doesn't happen because the owner class deems themselves more important. And so if a CEO gets taken out, oh my God, I can't believe a CEO gets taken out, but thousands of workers every single year that actually help this country run, that keeps this world spinning, and they don't cry about that. That to me is like, wait a minute. For instance, you and I both know this, but for anybody who's new that has not watched my channel before or is new to this concept, if a CEO leaves, how does the company fare? Company keeps running.
Yeah, it does the same thing that it did yesterday.
Take away the workers all at the bottom, including the people who keep the offices clean. The people who do all the grunt work, right? The people who work in the mail rooms, people who work on the phones and all that. Take all of them away, and then what happens to the company?
Falls apart instantly.
This is why I stopped using the word essential workers, because everybody was using that during 2020, during the pandemic, and they were like, oh my God, you're essential workers. We got to clap for them. No. These are foundational workers. The reason why I use foundational workers is because without them, where will we be? And so because of these foundational workers, they are disregarded every single time. If you disregard the cornerstone in the building, what happens to the building?
Falls down, collapse immediately. Exactly.
Meaning that we have to flip things. Instead of it being a pyramid where you have all the ruling class on top, no. That owner class needs to be on the bottom, and the rest of us, who are all the workers, including the people who keep our toilets clean, to keep our roads working well, the people who teach our children, these people need to be at the top. That's telling government what to do. That really tells government what to do. But the problem is that that's not the way. And so when one, I'm going to sound like a joker here, but when one little CEO loses their life, well, everybody loses their minds. And it's like, no, here's the problem. He shouldn't have been able to do what he was doing that led to that. And that's why I always say that if we had at least a single payer healthcare system, Brian Thompson will still be alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's systems that exist, elsewhere in the world where everybody's taken care of, and private health insurance still exists. And I'm sure that the CEOs of those companies are still doing quite well financially. You know what I mean? Maybe they don't have $10 billion or whatever, but maybe they have two, or whatever the equivalent. But, they're doing all right. I don't think they're hurting. So, it's really, that's why, a lot of times, a common phrase is money's the root of all evil. And I say, no, greed is the root of all evil. And that's what it is, because they have so much money and so now it's just greed at this point. There's nothing you can't do. There's literally nothing on earth you can't do. There's nothing you can't afford. There's nothing you can't buy. There's nowhere you can't go. You can do whatever you want at any given second with this amount of money, and you still want more. That's a greed issue at this point.
Yeah. That's the whole money is the root of all evil is actually a biblical misquote. Trust me, I know. I was an evangelical for 20 years. First Timothy chapter 6, verse 9 and 10 says, the love of money is the root of all sorts of injurious things. And by reaching out for that love, some have lived and led astray from the faith and have stabbed themselves all over to many pains. It says the love of money, meaning greed, exactly what you said. The problem is that people think, oh, well, you shouldn't love money. The thing is, it's like, oh, you shouldn't use money because it's an evil thing. It's like, no, money is a tool in order to be able to exchange goods and services without me having to lift up a huge car and be like, I'll give you this car for this tractor. No, it's that's basically, it's a medium of exchange in order to be able to use for, I'll give you this much worth of this for that. Anyway, but the whole thing is,
I feel like where that applies though, is consumer goods. That's just kind of the conclusion I've come to, is that's where capitalism is served best, is consumer goods. That's it. Video games, couches, cars, TVs, stuff like that. Hats, stuff like that. Consumer goods, sure. Compete with each other, make the best product, drive the price down, whatever. Because that stuff isn't necessities to survive. Necessities to survive, I feel like that's a different conversation. And that is where capitalism has no place. Because then you're literally incentivized for people's pain, for people's sickness, for people's downfall, essentially, for your profit.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like when you provide a false or a perverse incentive, that's what makes people evil, essentially. So, I mean, I don't think that the CEO necessarily even personally set out to, I'm going to try to deny as many claims as possible. Like, no, I don't think that was his goal per se. His goal was to make as much money for the company as possible and for his shareholders. And as a result of that goal, the result had to be, we have to deny claims. So again, it's a systemic thing. And I think that's why people are able to rationalize one versus the other. The violence involved with getting shot, the openness of where it happened, that shocks people's safety, mechanism of like, that could happen to me now. Like, if that happened in broad daylight in front of people and he got away with it for a couple of days, now that could happen to me. So now I'm scared. So they equate it a little bit more to themselves. And it's a shooting. So people, there's violence attached to it. Whereas, and it's, of course, gotten a lot of news coverage. It's the same thing as, the blonde girl who gets kidnapped and she's on every news station for weeks and weeks and weeks until, everyone finds her. Everyone knows her name. Everyone knows who she is. But, if it's a little black girl from Mississippi somewhere, you don't hear anything about it. And it just is what it is, even though it's the same crime and all of that stuff. So the media has a way of sensationalizing one type of death versus the other as well. And then again, when one is systemic, people kind of feel like they can look the other way. It's almost like war in a way. People will justify presidents bombing other countries if they like the president, even, hey, he just killed 50,000 people yesterday. And it's like, yeah, but, war's being the president. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't.
We'll justify systemic things for some reason, rather than an individual taking an action.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I think that a lot of people get confused, is that they will accept systemic violence, but then they draw the line at interpersonal violence.
Yes.
And interpersonal violence is a result of systemic violence. Yes. That's the problem that a lot of people don't realize.
Right.
A lot of times people go, well, why are we have these mass shooters? Well, look at the type of system that we have that facilitates the type of mentality that these mass shooters have. Because a lot of times people will go, well, we got to focus on the mental health. Well, how can we focus on mental health if we actually don't systemically have a universal or nationalized healthcare system so that people can get the mental health that they need so they won't become mass shooters? See, this is the thing that really grinds my gears, is that we focus on putting Band-Aids on gaping wounds instead of addressing the actual systemic problems right at the source. And just like, for instance, the whole thing with the H-1B visa, right? Some people will say, well, we're too lazy, or we don't, I don't want to move on to this, but they'll say things, I'm just trying to use it as an example, or we don't have the students that have the skills and the the training in order to be able to do these type of jobs. And I'm like, okay, so why don't we make college tuition free so that they can go to these schools, so they can have those skills, so they can actually do those jobs as Americans versus trying to ship them from overseas. But this is the issue with capitalism. Okay. And this is why I will give a little bit of pushback when it comes to we can have capitalism in certain areas. Because capitalists will take whatever they can in order to maximize profit. Mm-hmm. And that profit maximization will mean that they will even go overseas in order to exploit people overseas to be able to use them to pay less. Sure. And then on top of that, when it comes to the goods and services, let's say a PS5, right? Mm-hmm. You see what's inside of a PS4, PS5 controller is that you have a lithium ion battery. That lithium that goes in there is also in countries like Bolivia, right? And so what they'll do is that they'll do a coup in Bolivia. They will place a puppet government, and in that country will become destabilized, thus making it so that people who are in that destabilized country are so scared and they are being exploited in that country that they will run to be undocumented immigrants here so that they can at least live. And yet we're getting our PS5s even cheaper now because we have cheaper lithium ion batteries. And the thing is like, when it comes to even the innocuous goods and services, somebody is still being exploited. It's just we don't see the exploitation happening in front of our faces. So it could be happening in the global south, like for instance, what's happening in places like DRC with the cobalt and coltan that's constantly being, just so that we can have cheaper phones, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, when it comes to the healthcare issue, it's like, if we just knocked out just the healthcare issue, just one thing, imagine how many issues will be cleared away just by knocking that out.
Sure.
Just
and
from that
a slightly idealistic perspective, when I say that, it's more so like, where does it make the most sense? I guess, like, if capitalism were a thing that has to exist, where does it make the most sense? I would argue consumer goods.
Understood.
In that situation, you know. But yeah. Again, because you know, I'm an American and I'm brainwashed to a degree too.
Me too.
I have a system with no capitalism. I'm like,
hey, I'm still going through the spin cycle, bro. I'm trying to get like a plunger in, you know, get it out. You know what I'm saying?
I'm working.
Okay, that wasn't a good picture. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used that, but you know. But let me ask you this, as far as your predictions are concerned, because Luigi Mangione is going to be having a trial sometime this year. I expect it to happen sometime this year. Mm-hmm. And earlier I showed the perp walk that they did, really just for the cameras. That's all it really was.
For sure.
Do you expect a conviction out of this, or do you expect it to be like a hung jury? What is your expectations for this case? Because I have my predictions. I don't know if I'm going to be correct. I'm kind of in the air about it, but I want to get your thoughts on it first.
So I'll give a slightly conspiracy tinged prediction, and then I'll give I guess a realistic quote unquote prediction. But the slightly conspiracy tinged one, I would say, is that he is going to be found guilty, and he's going to be found guilty specifically on the terrorism charge. They're going to make sure that sticks, and the reason why is because they want to protect their CEOs. They want to protect the establishment. They want to protect their own. You know, they want to protect the people that are their donors. So they want to send a message to Americans. Hey, if you start taking vigilante justice on your hands, you're going to be charged as a terrorist, not just a criminal, a terrorist, which is a different category. And we know what they can do to you when they call you a terrorist. So that's one side of my brain says that's probably how it's going to go. The other side, the public reaction was so surprising to the establishment that everyone was kind of on Luigi's side. Like, even if they didn't flat out want to say, yes, I'm okay with the fact that he murdered that guy. Like, people didn't want to flat out say that, but they were like, I get it. It was kind of like the old Chris Rock joke. I'm not saying that you should murder somebody, but I understand. You know what I mean? So that was
the public get shot.
So that's the public's reaction. That could potentially be part of the jury's, reaction. And maybe somebody on the jury had somebody whose family member died, or, maybe they had United Healthcare and they got a claim denied. And you know what I mean? You never know. So when that side of it is at play, and these are human beings, the jurors are not robots. Nobody's perfect. Your emotions and all of that stuff, it plays a role. So when that's the case, I could see it maybe being a hung jury or, a mistrial or something like that, where it's not necessarily a clean, okay, he's either found not guilty or he's found guilty. Like, I could see that in the realistic version of events. I see that kind of being the way it plays out. But a part of me does kind of feel like they want to use him to make an example so that there's not other vigilantes out here taking justice upon themselves.
But here, and what sucks to me is the fact that, and when you said that they're trying to make that terrorism charge stick because they want to protect CEOs, it makes me want to retort and say, but these same people don't want to do the same thing to the KKK and to protect us.
Well, yeah, because chaos in most cases, in all cases, chaos amongst the people benefits the establishment. As long as we're fighting each other, then we're not focused on what they're doing. This is an example of everybody being on the same page and being focused on what they're doing, which scares the shit out of them, which is why they want to put a stop to it, which is why they're like, we're going to make this guy a terrorist so that way nobody else. Again, that's a potential possibility of how it plays out, but it is a realistic one because we know that they play dirty tricks on people that they don't like.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy. Look, and all the
that was what made my conspiracy antennas pop up, is once they threw the terrorism charge. If it was just a murder charge, then okay, it could play out either way, and I don't know. We'll just have to see. But once they threw terrorism on there, I was like, oh, they're doing something here. Like, there's more to this.
Because they could have put a terrorism charge on Dylan Roof.
Yeah, and they didn't, right? Yeah.
It's like, you guys didn't give him a terrorism charge, but you got him some Burger King.
You see what I'm saying? So
that makes sense. Because that's the part of the system that I see what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you guys can do whatever you want to each other, but don't come after us, even though they're the ones that are actually the ones that are making sure that we die faster. Like I don't know if you remember back in the day, and I say probably between it was around 2012 to 2016-ish. It was after Obamacare was put in place, where they were talking about death panels, right? The right was talking about, oh my God, they're going to establish death panels. Meanwhile, those death panels actually exist. And that's the reason why the alleged shooter did what he did, because he was sick and tired of death panels killing our family members. Yep. That's the whole thing. And next thing you know, now you got people who are, well known in the right that are going, oh my God, you shouldn't be doing this, and it's like, but wait a minute, you guys were fear-mongering about death panels about 10, 12 years ago. And now we're actually talking about death panels, and somebody essentially took out somebody who was over the death panels, and yet now you guys are getting upset about it. It's like, wait a minute, you guys also helped this ethos, use colloquially, whatever. I'm not good at words. Anyways, even though I talk for a living. But the thing is like, it's kind of funny how they will push this narrative until it goes too far. Like, look, what they did as far as the left and right narrative, and then next thing you know, Trump gets shot at. Oh my God, we can't keep talking like this. It's terrible. You guys are taking things too far. And it's like, well, you guys were the ones that were running your mouth and making it into this situation in the first place. You guys were saying all this BS. And so then now when one of you dies, then it's like, oh, well, hey, we gotta stop. It's like time out.
Yep.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yep. Same thing happened in Charlottesville. Same thing happened in Charlottesville. No, that's not reflective of the movement. He's just a lone kook who did that. It's always that. It's never one of ours when one of yours messes up, but when one of ours messes up, it's all of us, whether that be black, whether that be somebody on the left, whatever, you know what I mean? That's how that usually works. So.
Yep, absolutely. So with that being said, I want to move on to another thing. So
I actually do have a follow-up prediction about that, though.
About what?
On the Luigi Mangione case. Depending on the results of that case, will depend on what we see as far as will there be more vigilante activists? Will there be any change in the system and how healthcare works?
That's a good question.
That'll be when we see that. If he's found not guilty, or if there's a mistrial or anything like that where he's not going to do a lot of time, I think you potentially see some changes, because that's going to sort of open the door for other people to feel like a little bit more froggy. And CEOs, again, they love money, but they love their lives more. And if they're scared, they will do what's necessary to keep their life. You know what I mean? So that's why Bill Burr said make CEOs scared again. So that's what I foresee happening depending on the results of the case. The CEOs are going to be scared, and we can potentially be in the first time in my lifetime in the position to actually force some change.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, were you able to see, his lawyer and the statement that she made regarding the case to the judge? Let's take a look.
I'm very concerned about my client's right to a fair trial in this case. He's being prejudiced by some statements that are being made by government officials. Like every other defendant, he is entitled to a presumption of innocence. But unfortunately, the way this has been handled so far, his rights are being violated. And as you know, Your Honor, there's a wealth of case law guaranteeing his right to a fair trial, but none of the safeguards have been put in place yet here. In fact, it's just the opposite of what's been happening. He's a young man, and he is being treated like a human ping pong ball between two warring jurisdictions here. These federal and state prosecutors are coordinating with one another, but at the expense of him. They have conflicting theories in their indictments, and they are literally treating him like he is like some sort of political fodder, like some sort of spectacle. He was on display for everyone to see in the biggest staged perp walk I've ever seen in my career. It was absolutely unnecessary. He's been cooperative with law enforcement. He had been in custody for over a week. He waived extradition. He was cooperative at all accounts. There was no reason for the NYPD and everybody to have these big assault rifles that, frankly, I had no idea was in their arsenal. And to have all of these the press there, the media there, it was like perfectly choreographed. And what was the New York City mayor doing at this press conference? And frankly, I submit that he was just trying to detract from those issues by making a spectacle of Mr. Mangione. And there are consequences to this. He has a right to a fair trial. And I just want to put on the record statements that the mayor made publicly about my client. Nothing saying alleged, for example. And he said, I wanted to send a strong message with the police commissioner that we're leading from the front. I'm not going to just allow him to come into our city. I wanted to look him in the eye and state, you carried out this terrorist act in my city, the city of New York that I love. And he wanted to show symbolism. Your Honor, he's not a symbol. He's somebody who is afforded the right to a fair trial. He's innocent until proven guilty. And the mayor was talking to jurors, future potential jurors that elected him. Those are the people that elected him, that he is talking to and calling this man a terrorist. So, Your Honor, I just want to make a record of this and put everyone on notice that this has to stop. And my client is entitled to a fair trial and the presumption of innocence. And we're going to fight these charges, whether it's in the state or federal, to the fullest extent. Thank you, Your Honor.
I would like to get your reaction to that.
Yeah, I mean, she's absolutely right. You know, it has been treated as political fodder, you know, from the media's perspective. It has been, again, among citizens and average everyday people. It's not really a political thing. Everybody kind of, again, views it the same way. But in the media, absolutely. You know, you immediately saw right-wing podcast hosts and right-wing television show hosts, you know, immediately jumping on the, oh, you're defending murder if you know, empathize with Luigi in any way, shape, or form. And, you know, a lot of establishment Democrat shows, I'll say it that way, a lot of establishment Democrat shows felt the same way. And then, you know, lefty YouTubers were kind of the only ones who were saying what was reflective of public sentiment, which was, hey, I kind of get it, or hey, I don't really feel bad for dude. Like, that was mainly the sentiment that was expressed. And, you know, so in the media, they did try to make it a political fodder thing. So I totally agree with her there. If the police chief was saying those direct quotes, basically putting this crime on him, you know, saying for sure, you know, that you did this, you know, no alleged, you know, that's a big word. You have to say allegedly. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't put things on people that they didn't for sure do. So,
and that was Mayor Adams.
That he is not at all getting a fair shake, you know, in the court of public opinion or among the actual court system itself.
Yep, absolutely. And you know, this story is continuing to develop. I honestly do agree that they're going to try to make that stick, the whole terrorism charge. If they would need to find 12 people who are jurors to basically side with the owner class on this one. But the owner class have screwed over so many working people that it's going to make it nearly impossible to actually find them. And if I'm correct, I think for the federal charge, I think all they need is a judge. I don't think they need a jury trial for that. But if they do, then it makes it tougher. If they can just do it by a judge, then yeah, they can make it stick. But if it's by a jury, it's going to make it hard. Because it's really part of the class war.
It's going to be hard to convince 12 people that he killed this person for the explicit purpose of starting a conversation about healthcare. Because that would be the only way that it's terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, it's not terrorism. It's just murder outside of that. But that would be the grounds for it to be terrorism, is if the reason that he committed this murder is to somehow either start a conversation or start change within the healthcare system itself, then that would make it terrorism because you're doing it for a political or financial purpose. But that's hard to prove. You know what I mean? That's going to be hard to prove that he did it because the healthcare, because he wanted reform in the system. You know, you get what I'm saying? Like, I think that's hard to prove. So I don't know if you're going to convince 12 people of that. So I don't know if it sticks, unless, like you said, under the federal guidelines, they only need a judge, in which case he's, you know.
But first, they actually have to prove that if he's the one that actually did it.
True. Very true.
They have to prove that first. And then on top of it, here's my thing. Even though the healthcare system in itself isn't on trial from a federal court perspective, but in the court of public opinion, healthcare has been on trial for decades now. And for us, that is terrorism. Because you're basically making a political statement that our profits matter more than your life, so therefore we're gonna stand in between you and your doctor you and your doctor need to get permission from us to have care. And that's not right. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I said that's freedom. You're describing freedom, James. You didn't realize that's what you're describing. Me and my doctor making a decision of having to get permission from the health insurance companies. That's freedom.
Oh boy, man, I can't. Look, when this trial starts, I'm having you back on because we need to have this conversation. But I want to move on to the next point because we talked about H-1B visa. So I want to get into this. Yeah. Talking about Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and even Donald Trump in regards to this one, because I think this is going to be a interesting point that I want to get into in regards to immigration as well as workers, exploitation. And so I want to share my screen really quick because I already went over this about 2 weeks ago. Because I basically had to say what I said about Vivek Ramaswamy. So I'm not going to read the entire tweet again because I read the entire thing last time. But just to cover over a little bit of this so that we can get a gist of it, and then we can discuss it a little bit more, especially as this argument, especially on the right, continues to develop. But Vivek Ramaswamy said the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. Now I'm gonna stop there and say, he sounds bitter. Very bitter. I'll just say it. And you're talking to somebody that loves nerds, but he sounds bitter. Anyway, continuing on. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World or Zach and Slater over Screech in Saved by the Bell or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters would not produce the best engineers. Here's the thing. We love Steve. That's the problem. See, this is why somebody like him just doesn't understand us, because we love the hell out of Steve.
That's what I was just going to say. The whole point of Stefan and Steve was to show that when you stop being who you really are, it doesn't work out. And when you have something going for yourself like intelligence and you're actually smart and you try to turn it off, it doesn't work. Like that was the whole point of Stefan. Stefan didn't ever it never worked in the end. He impressed Laura for a little bit and then he did something that crashed out and then it didn't work. He had to go back to being Steve. That was the point of it. So first of all, that was a terrible example. And second of all, they're the same guy. Steve and Stefan is the same person, you idiot. Like, it's not two different characters, dummy. So that was already, but anyway, go ahead.
See, this is why when you get somebody who does not understand Black culture, they just,
yeah, man.
Oh, Lord. Anyway.
Yeah, that was a terrible example. Go ahead.
Just don't get it. And here's the crazy part. He goes, fact, I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity and their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates. Here's the thing. He doesn't point to many of the other Black parents, especially, that also had kids that were also did really well, but they also still watch those shows. They still watch the TGIFs, right? And we weren't limited because, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you had to be limited, but ours didn't. We still got STEM graduates.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you trying to say, Vivek? See, here's the, oh my God, look, Vivek is like, he's my generation, because I don't know if I think you're younger than me, but I'm 40, and Vivek is 39.
Okay, we're all in high school at the same time, so. So
Yeah.
we were all in high school at the same time. So
Yeah. When I was a senior, he was a junior.
I was a freshman. Yep.
Yeah. So the thing is like when it comes to somebody like Vivek, it's like, tell me you're insulting Americans without telling me you're insulting Americans.
Yeah.
First of all. Second of all, when he talks about the whole H-1B visa thing, and I hate that he made me agree with Ann Coulter of all people. He made me agree with Ann Coulter. That's a sin. Anyway, so Ann Coulter was basically saying that H-1B visas, the way it's set up, is that you're able to come to the country based on the education that you've gotten. But with that education, you're locked in, and if you say, for instance, you want to fight against how much you're being paid or your working conditions, you can't, because if you do, then guess what? They say, all right, we're deporting you and sending you back.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can't, it's exploitation, but just of people who have these technical skills.
Mm-hmm.
H-1B visa recipients are no different than the people who are undocumented immigrants that come across the border and are exploited, whether they work in construction, hospitality, or in agriculture. So it's just, they're at just different levels economically, but they're still exploited nonetheless. And so I want to get your thoughts about that, because it feels like you have one side that says we need to end the H-1B visas and just focus on Americans. But then you have another side, and really this is more, concentrated on the right.
Mm-hmm.
You have the other side of the right that says, well, we need to make America great. And that's what people like Vivek Ramaswamy is saying. You also have people like Elon Musk saying the exact same thing. In fact, let me share that too, because Elon Musk actually is said that
is this the F your face tweet?
Yeah. Let me share this, because Elon Musk also, he in a sense is crashing out now because a lot of people are now turning on him. A lot of MAGA are turning on him.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk said, the reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H-1B. Take a step back and F yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. So he is defending this, to the death, in so many words. But people like him, as well as Donald Trump, is even he's even doing the same thing. Like he's saying, he's trying to defend H-1B visas. Let me share this as well so that you guys can see. So
nobody knows.
Let me make sure. Is this showing? Yeah. Okay. So this is Donald Trump versus Donald Trump, and this is going to be hilarious.
Nobody knows the system better than me. I know the H-1B. I know the H-2B. Nobody knows it better than me. I know the H-1B very well, and it's something that I frankly use, and I shouldn't be allowed to use. We shouldn't have it. Very, very bad for workers.
As we speak, we're finalizing H-1B regulations so that no American worker is replaced ever again. H-1Bs should be used for top, highly paid talent to create American jobs, not as inexpensive labor program to destroy American jobs.
Why'd you change your mind on H-1B visas, sir?
I didn't change my mind. I've always felt we have to have the most competent people in our country. We need competent people. We need smart people coming into our country. And we need a lot of people coming in. We're going to have jobs like we've never had before.
But sir, you said you changed your...
Nobody knows the system better than me. I know the...
Yeah. So your thoughts. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
So this leads into another one of my predictions, but it just happened way sooner than I thought it was going to, which is amazing to watch. It's actually amazing to watch from a purely entertainment perspective. It's amazing to watch. Of course, the MAGA coalition wasn't going to last because it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to begin with. you have a bunch of tech bros who want the HB1 visas because they don't have a principled stance on the immigration reform or whatever. They don't care if immigration theoretically hurts Americans or doesn't hurt Americans. That is not their concern. These are billionaire capitalists or multi-million dollar or hundreds of millions millionaire capitalists, right? That what they care about is their bottom line, making sure that their companies are profitable, making sure that their shareholders are happy. Whatever that means, again, Elon said it himself, even if that means they have to employ ruthless tactics, they will do so to ensure that those profits are met.
Yeah.
So, of course, that's not going to mesh with what I would argue is an actual pro-worker coalition among the voters. You know, they're just going about it the wrong way, but I think they want the right thing. They want workers' rights and worker protections and higher wages for workers and more jobs in the United States. I think they want all the correct things. So the fact that they even thought that a person like Elon or a person like a Vivek was on their side from the beginning, you know, all right, that's, you guys thought that, like, I could have told you otherwise, but you know, hey, okay. So those two things don't mesh anyway. And then the even funnier thing is I'm seeing guys like Patrick Bet-David and Elon now and Vivek who are like, hey, have you guys noticed that there's like a big white supremacist tension in MAGA? That's weird. Like there's all these people that are being racist towards us all of a sudden. Really? You didn't think that that's who you were getting in bed with this whole time? You didn't know that that's who MAGA was? You didn't realize that every Ku Klux Klan member is on that side? Every MAGA member may not be a Klan member, but every Klan member is definitely a MAGA. You know what I mean? It's one of those. You didn't know? Really? Elon Musk, smartest guy ever. I'm better than everybody. That's why I deserve all this money. Musk. You really? You didn't think that they were racist in MAGA? Patrick Bet-David, that's your whole thing. I'm super smart and I came up and nobody gave me anything and now I'm a serious man and my kids aren't allowed to watch TV and I'm trying to, this is your whole thing. And you didn't know that there were racists in MAGA, really? So watching it fall apart before he's even been inaugurated is hilarious. And I would argue that chaos in their ranks is good for us because they're not going to be able to get anything done if they're arguing constantly about if immigrants should be allowed in the country, if immigrants shouldn't be allowed in the country. Trump doesn't want to piss off his MAGA base, but he also doesn't want to piss off Elon. So what do? Nothing. You can't do anything. So chaos is good for us. So I'm here for it. But I didn't think it was going to happen this soon. It was like damn near as soon as it was announced Trump was elected, all of a sudden, oh, there seemed to be problems with Elon. Really? You didn't see that coming? Wow. So it's amazing. It's amazing to watch. I love it. I hope the chaos continues. I never want them to get on the same page. They get on the same page, that's bad for America.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Sorry. But here's the thing. As far as this whole MAGA civil war that's happening, I didn't have this on my bingo card, but
yeah, it makes sense in the world to me. Yeah, this is obvious to me. A bunch of white supremacists who are saying we don't want immigration coming in the country. There's some people who legitimately feel like immigrants are, disrupting the wages and things of that nature. And there's an argument for that, sure. I don't know how much I buy into it, but there's an argument to be made there. But there's a bunch of people also who say, no, I want America to be like a white country, and that's why we want the immigrants to be gone, and we don't want interracial mixing, and like that's a huge segment of them as well, and they want to preserve it as a quote-unquote white country because they feel like their ancestors built the country. These videos are out there. Like these people exist. It's not just one-off here and there. Like this is a contingent of MAGA. So it's like, this is who you're getting in bed with. Like know who your people are.
Sure.
That's why I call myself a Democrat.
Yeah. There is a contingent of,
it's not me.
Yeah. Well, there is a contingent of MAGA that are non-white, that also complain about the issue with immigration. For instance, in places like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, where a lot of their resources are being stretched thin because of the migrant issue, which I do concede that that is an issue.
Sure.
And so they will say, well, there is a problem with migrants. And then the argument is that there's so many migrants coming in that the owner class would rather hire them because they cannot fight against being exploited in this country. So therefore, they lower the wages that could be for those of us who are citizens. Now, that being said, my argument against that is, then why aren't we pushing for a system that stops destabilizing countries that they come from, that they're running away from, in order to be safer here? Because the problem is that a lot of people who are coming here are undocumented, are coming here out of desperation because of the drug war, because of the destabilization from the sanctions and the blockades that our country is doing. As the sanctions and blockades increase, then we're going to have more undocumented immigrants coming here to this country. On top of that, the climate refugees that we will start having coming more because our overall climate temperatures are actually rising this year. So then they're going to be also be coming on top of that, be out of desperation. So if you want to stop the flow of undocumented immigrants coming here, and if you also want to stop the flow of H-1B visas coming here, well, you got to stop the destabilization so that they don't end up having to run away from what we're causing over there. Because you're creating two sets of victims. You're creating one set of victims that's being overly exploited, that cannot say no to, start even worse starvation wages that even more we're subject to. And then you're having us where we can't even demand the wages that we want because they can find somebody who will be even further exploited than us. And so this is one of the issues that I see, especially within this country. And the problem is that, for instance, people like Elon, Vivek, and Donald, they want to keep the exploitation coming in place because it affects their bottom line. They also are just like the other people who hire, at construction companies and on farms and ranches, that want to keep the undocumented immigrants coming in because they can actually pay less. And then they'll say, well, if you guys don't have these people coming in, then all our prices are going to go up. And the problem is like, number one, these people shouldn't be exploited in the first place. And this is why I say solidarity between workers, no matter if we're documented or undocumented, should take place, because it shouldn't be. And then on top of that, we should not be harming their countries in order to make our corporations richer over here, because then we're harming them. But people
have been able to explain to me, nobody's ever been able to make this make sense to me. And
sure.
So the argument is, right, okay, so let's use a grocery store, for example. Because a grocery store, they have deals with farms and stuff like that for their produce, whatever. On the farms, I'm sure there's a bunch of undocumented workers who are making sure that the produce is growing correctly and getting, where it needs to go so it gets to the grocery store. Okay. Mm-hmm. Take away those undocumented workers, replace them with Americans who you have to pay at least the minimum wage, which I'm sure is more expensive than what you are paying the undocumented workers. Got it. Mm-hmm. The only reason then for the items themselves, for the actual produce to become more expensive, is so that everything else above that level is maintained. Meaning, if the owner of the grocery store makes $5 million, let's say, and in order for him to continue to make that same 5 million or more, everything else has to come up. You see what I'm saying? That's the only reason for that. Because otherwise, why? Why would everything else have to become more expensive in order for you to pay your workers more why are you the only one that's going to be unaffected by that? Why does everyone else have to be affected by it? I have to pay more for the stuff now. The Americans, they're still not making a good wage. They're only making $7.25 or whatever minimum wage is. The only one who's being impacted positively by this is you, the owner of the grocery store, the owner of the chain of grocery stores, in all likelihood. So why is that the rule, I guess, and not the exception? I guess that's my question. Nobody's been able to make that make sense to me.
Look, here's the thing, because they're not supposed to. Shane, you know why I'm smiling right now?
Yeah.
Because you literally just made the argument for a system outside of capitalism where we switch it from having ownership of one person to workers owning the means of production.
Oh, I'm 100% in favor of worker-owned co-ops. Once I figured out what those were, again, because I had no idea pre-2016, I learned a lot after 2016. Once I figured out, like, oh, you mean that there's certain workplaces where everybody owns everything, and the better the company does, the better everybody does? Wait a minute. Oh. What? Like, that's a thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird living in America and realizing that, like, there's other systems that, you know, benefit everybody. Like, it's just a weird concept. So, you know, I'm totally on board, though.
Because here's the thing: a lot of times, and that was a beautiful question that you asked. Because if workers were owning, especially when it comes to the production line, so you start off with who is getting the ore, like the iron ore for the raw materials, or the lithium ore, or the cobalt ore, right? And how it's distributed among those workers, right? Then you talk about who does the work in the factories in order to make the farm equipment, right? To make the iron and the steel, right? Well, if those workers were organized to be a worker-owned business, then imagine how that would be. Then you go to the farms, where the farm hands, right, and the ranches with the cow hands, right, where they are all organized to be workers actually owning the farm, right, collectively and democratically. Once you start to do it that way, I mean, if our prices go up, yeah, but at the same time, who benefits at the end of the day? It would be the workers, because they're literally the owners of the means of production. It wouldn't be just going out to one person. And so the crazy part about it is that is a way in which, and then on top of it, we're not destabilizing other countries. That means that people aren't leaving their own country in order to be able to make it here. If they do come here, then it's because they went the proper channels. And then they can wait because they're not in danger if they don't. Or they're not in as much danger because their countries are doing better. And if their countries want to change to a different economic system, then what does that have to do with us? All right, you guys are going to change to a different economic system? Okay. All right, we'll deal with you in a fair trade way. So if you guys got some lithium, okay, how much do you guys own it, nationalize it? Okay, how much do you guys want for your lithium? And if you guys are a little bit too expensive, all right, we're going to shift over to another country. Okay. But the problem is that it's about who owns what. And you have, you touched on it in an eloquent way, which I want to thank you for, is that a lot of times, like, that would also not depress, but that would curb the undocumented immigration status that constantly is at our borders, that we're constantly being faced with. Because people don't leave where they have it good.
Yeah.
But they, but it's like, why don't they have it good?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you spoke on it, and it's like, for example, the drug war, that directly impacts other countries where, drug cartels have been able to take over essentially and rise into power the same way that in the 1920s, when we banned alcohol here, that's when the mob got their, most power. Why? Because they were able to take over the black market There's no regulation on it. So you have more people dying because of bad alcohol, bad batches of liquor. And in modern day, cocaine laced with fentanyl and heroin with fentanyl in it and stuff like that. You know, you're normally used to taking however much drugs you take. And then now all of a sudden that same batch with a little bit of fentanyl in it killed you. You know, the regulations stop that. But because we're scared of drugs and drugs are dirty and we've been all propagandized into thinking that everyone who does drugs is an addict who's homeless on the street and doesn't want anything better for themselves. There's no desire to legalize drugs outside of the people who know specifically what the benefits would be, which would be a stop in the violence in other countries, a stop in the violence here amongst gangs. Again, regulation, safety for drug users. A lot more people would probably be able to get off of drugs because it wouldn't be a criminalized thing. So they'd be able to get the help that they need. Like there's nothing but positive benefits essentially that come from legalizing, taxing, and regulating drugs. You know, and again, the cartels losing their power is a big piece of that, which would in turn curb the immigration. You know, but again, it's a systemic thing that people feel like is so big. Because when I talk to people about this, like in an everyday sense, they agree with me. They just don't see it as like a realistic thing because of how much it would take. And so I'm like, that's interesting because people do same thing with prostitution in a way. People, when I give them like the reality of not just because dudes are horny and they want to be able to have sex when they want, but no, it actually would increase the safety. There's no pimps involved. If you know, are assaulted or violated in any way, you can actually call the police rather than having to rely on a pimp. You know, there's regulation involved. The women are tested, you know, et cetera, et cetera. When I break all these reasons down, then people are like, oh, actually, when you make a argument like that, it actually makes sense. Like, but how do we get there? So that's the thing. People have an issue with the systemic steps that it would take to actually get there. So they agree with the solution. They just don't see it as realistic. And get them to see it.
Do you think that they see it as overly complex?
Yes.
Do you and your personally, do you think that the solution is overly complex?
No, I think it's it's just a matter of will and what our goals are as a government, essentially. So if the government's goals are to actually curb violence and to actually make people's lives better and, you know, do all these things that obviously all politicians say they want to do. If their actual goal is to do those things, then it's a couple pieces of paper that you sign that, you know, remove the schedules off of these drugs and, you know what I mean? Like make them not criminalized anymore. Like it's very simple from what I understand. It's like a few pieces of paper get signed and boom, it's done. So no, I don't think it's overly complicated. It's just a matter of will. Because how many people are employed by the prison industry who would theoretically lose their jobs because you got to let a lot of criminals out if drugs are legal now, because that's the majority of people who are in jail. It's drug related. It's not violent. There's a very small number of people who are in prison because of violent stuff. It's usually drugs. So drugs, fraud. It's always financial stuff. Financial stuff is going to get you in prison quicker than violence will.
Yeah, well, I would also say that the perpetuation of violence that has happened is also because of the drug war as well. So look, for instance,
it's a prostitution argument. Instead of if a prostitute gets, or a sex worker, I'm sorry, if a sex worker gets assaulted, then she can't call the police. She has to rely on violence from her pimp or from whoever in order to, you know, get her money back or whatever the case is, right? Whereas she's able to call the cops and say, hey, I was arrested and I'm performing a legal business act. Now, you know, you don't have to worry about that violent element so much. Not that I think the police are the best example, you know, the solution to everything, but you get what I'm saying. Like, if there's an option for you to go a legal route to do something, you'll probably take that route rather than the illegal one. With drugs, you can't call the cops and say, hey, my trap house got raided. You know what I mean? You can't do that. You have to go back and get those bricks back yourself. So that usually comes with violence, you know? But if you take that out of the equation and I'm allowed to sell cocaine out of a store, we're good now. I don't hear about dispensaries robbing each other and getting in beefs. Like, the dispensary I go to is not beefing with the dispensary on the other side of the street. Like, everybody's good.
No, they'll just advertise like McDonald's versus Burger King. But
There you go.
but I wanted to get your thoughts on that because it's an unlikely person that actually went up against Elon Musk.
Mhm.
And that was Bernie Sanders in regards to this issue. I'm not sure if you got to see this, but he said the main function of the H-1B visa program is not to hire the best and brightest, but rather to replace good-paying American jobs with low-wage indentured servants from abroad. The cheaper the labor they hire, the more money the billionaires make. So let's get into this, okay?
Yeah, he's sort of making the and culture argument, actually. Which yeah, I agree with. If you are able to hire somebody for more money than they would make at home, but less money than you can hire them for here, then they're going to be stuck here because they're not going to. And if they don't basically do your will, you can just send them back home. You're putting them in a very bad position. So yeah, that is exactly what it is. I agree.
Yep. So here's what Bernie says in the letter. He said there has been a lot of discussion lately about the H-1B guest worker program. Elon Musk and a number of other billionaire tech company owners have argued that this federal program is vital for our economy because of the scarcity of highly skilled American engineers and other tech workers. I disagree. The main function of the H-1B visa program and other guest worker initiatives is not to hire the best and brightest, but rather replace good-paying American jobs with low-wage indentured servants from abroad. The cheaper labor they hire, the more money billionaires make. In 2022 and 2023, the top 30 corporations using this program laid off at least 85,000 American workers while they hired over 34,000 new H-1B guest workers. There are estimates that as many as 33% of all new information technology jobs in America are being filled by guest workers. Further, according to the Census Bureau data, there are millions of Americans with advanced degrees in science, technology, engineering, and math who are not currently employed in those professions. He continues. Hang on. He said, there's really a shortage of skilled workers in America. Why did Tesla lay off over 7,500 American workers this year, including many software developers and engineers at its factory in Austin, Texas, while being approved to employ thousands of H-1B guest workers? Moreover, if these jobs are only going to the best and brightest, why has Tesla employed H-1B guest workers as associate accountants for as little as $58,000, associate mechanical engineers for as little as $70,000 a year, and associate material planners for as little as $80,000 a year? Those don't sound like highly specialized jobs for the top 0.1%, as Musk claimed this week. If the program is really supposed to be about importing workers with highly skilled advanced degrees in science and technology, why are H-1B guest workers being employed as dog trainers, massage therapists, cooks, and English teachers? Can we really not find English teachers in America? And this goes into a lot of what was just revealed, that, for instance, there was warehouse workers for Amazon that were hired as H-1B visa workers, Amazon warehouse workers. So this isn't just the highly skilled workers that we're importing. Now we're importing workers who do just, jobs that you don't even need a college degree to do. And now we're importing them so that we can pay them less as well. And so this goes into where it's like odd bedfellows, people like Bernie Sanders and Ann Coulter that are literally on the same side when it comes to workers. But at the same time, this is the point where this is the issue with capitalism, because I'm going to say this. They can't arrest us and put us in prison and make us chattel slaves fast enough in order to exploit us even further.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
They're trying to ramp it up, especially with building top cities, but it's not going fast enough. So they have to lay off the people who are more expensive, American workers, and then get foreign workers in order to do it so they can start making more in their quarterly profits. Because the fourth quarter, it ends in 26 days, 27 days, the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And so they got to make as much as they possibly can. Because look, Meta, Amazon, Apple, all these companies were laying off thousands upon thousands of tech workers. And now those positions never went away. They just got replaced with cheaper labor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so, I mean, what I see with this, first of all, the Ann Coulter Bernie Sanders thing, they're on the same side of the issue, but I would argue for two totally different reasons. You know, I think Bernie is literally pro-worker, end of sentence. And Ann Coulter, definitely a lot of her anti-immigration takes are not just to protect the American worker. You know what I mean? So they're probably coming at it for two very different reasons, even though they reach the same conclusion. So I do just want to point that out. But yeah, like as far as my strategy for going forward, this is my strategy right here, is to point these type of things out. Because there's two camps, you know, and the majority of the average everyday citizen voters that I speak with who might have voted for Trump, it's usually because they felt, you know, that he would be better on the economy. That's ultimately what it came down to, is they felt like he would be better on the economy. So my goal is to just point stuff like this out. And I just want to see if they're going to rationalize what Trump does, or if they're going to actually stand up against it. Now, so far with the Elon split, just on the online world, it seems like people are actually standing up against Trump, which I'd like to see, because it's like, okay, it shows that you do have some principles and you're not just playing follow the leader. Whether I agree with you or not is separate from that. Like, if you have principles, we can go somewhere. If you just are follow the leader, then I can't really have a conversation with you, because I just know whatever he says you're going to roll with and you're going to figure out a way to rationalize it. So the fact that there is dissension among the voters, that's a positive sign. And then so I'm just going to point things like this out. Trump's going to bring back jobs to America. Okay, well, the first 4 years he lost us 250,000. So what do you have to say about that? You know what I mean? Oh, well, COVID happened and blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. Give you that. That's not the whole story, but I'll give it to you. COVID's not the same anymore. Like, we're not treating it the same anymore. So what's going to be the excuse this time when he loses 300,000 jobs or 400,000 jobs, or like how George W. Bush did, like, you know, almost millions of jobs? Like, what happens when that happens? Are you going to rationalize it, or are you going to say, hey, Donald Trump isn't doing the things that he said he was going to do? I'm just going to point the stuff out and let people come to their own conclusions, because people will come to the right conclusions by themselves. When they're presented with enough information, even things that go against their current worldview, when you're by yourself, you're a lot more willing to take that information in, because you don't have to defend anything. But if I'm speaking to somebody who I know is a Trumper, I know that their instinct is going to be to defend what they're standing on. So I'm just going to present information. I'm going to continue to do my videos. I'm going to say, hey, here's what happened. You come to your own conclusion. And my hope is that enough people will see that Trump is a con artist. Or if you're on the Elon side and you felt like he was, you know, more pro-MAGA than he actually is, hopefully you'll see that he's a con artist and he's not actually here to save jobs. He's a 100% capitalist. He's a vulture on society. That's all he is. He's a leech. And he's not doing anything positive necessarily that's benefiting us in our daily lives. He's doing things to benefit himself. So hopefully people will see that if they're big Elon fans. But I'm just going to present information such as what Bernie just did right here, you know, because I didn't know about the cooks and the teachers, and, you know, that these non-high skilled positions are being filled. You know, I didn't realize that until, you know, you just read me that right there. So the fact that that's happening, hopefully people will see that and see, oh, okay, this isn't what we were told it was. but I'm just going to present stuff and let people come to their own conclusions, hopefully, and hopefully that reflects in, you know, the midterms, you know, the Senate races, you know, all of that stuff. Like, hopefully we get back to focusing on local politics, and then in 4 years, hopefully, you know, we'll be able to make some headway. Because it seems like they were working the whole last 4 years to make their headway, and they made it happen. So now we got to do the same, but not for the Democrats, for the actual left.
Yeah. Do you think that it starts more local? Do you think that is really the base of where we should start? Instead of starting on the roof, we should start lower?
I think so. I think if I'm able to convince people that I talk to on a daily basis who I know voted for Trump, of the things that I know that they're concerned about, which is, you know, inflation, being able to pay rent every week, being able to put gas in the car. These are the things that they're concerned about. You know, they're not necessarily concerned about what we would consider social issues or cultural issues. Like, they'll talk about it, but that's not what they're concerned about. If you notice, I haven't heard any conversation about trans women in sports since Trump's been elected. Not a peep. Haven't heard anything. Not a word from anyone. Haven't heard nothing. That was a huge talking point for months and months and months leading up to the election. All of a sudden, their guy won. Oh, mum's the word. Now we don't care anymore. Huh. It's almost like that was just a distraction. Weird. But you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, it's stuff like that where it's like, okay, well, now that I know what you're actually concerned about, gas prices, grocery prices, things like that, I know you don't really care about the trans people in sports thing because you don't talk about it anymore. So where do I get you okay, well, here are the things that he did, and this is why stuff is more expensive now. Are you still on board? That's going to be my question. So, okay, well, here's this guy who's local in Phoenix who's going to try to lower our prices here in the Mesa district for right now. Is that something you can be on board with? Yes? Okay, let's vote for this guy. So then you get them to vote for one lefty. Then, okay, hey, we're going up to the gubernatorial level now. Hey, this guy's going to do the same things that the guy from the city level, you know, the mayor or the city councilman or whoever it was, he's going to do those same things. And you like what he was doing on our city level, right? Like, you think things are better now. Okay, so let's do that on a state level. Okay, cool. Got you two steps more over this way. But again, just like we talked about before, it's about meeting people where they are. So if I know your concerns are economic related, that's where I'm going to meet you. I'm going to try to convince you on economics. I'm not going to talk about anything else. If you're a social issues person and we see differently on that, then that's a different type and style of conversation to have, because I think that's more of an exposure thing. That's more about being exposed to different types of people and then learning that not every people are different, but we're the same also. So that's a little bit of a different tactic. But as far as economics, I think you can show people and you can point to results, and it's a little bit easier to convince people on those merits. So that's where I would start.
Let me share this with you just in that same vein, because this is something that I saw in the news when I was at dialysis, and I was like, really? Okay. So this is actually kind of a good news story, but I want to point this out because this proves your point. And I love proving my guest's point. This is out of Spectrum News 13 here in Orlando. Look at that. Orange County schools to provide students with free meals. This came out July of last year. But this is for the 2024-2025 school year. It says Orange County Public Schools will once again provide students with free meals during the 2024-2025 school year. The district is able to ensure all students have access to nutritious meals that support their health and academic success through the community eligibility provision. Families do not need to fill out any forms or applications to qualify for free meals unless their child is enrolled at one of 3 new schools opening this year: Atwater Bay, Luminary, Middle, and Innovation High. School officials said that the new schools do not yet have student household data necessary to gain CEP status. The district is asking families attending 1 of 3 new schools to fill out the meals. So basically they have to fill it out because the schools are basically brand new. But all the other schools are automatically enrolled. And so the awesome part is we did this for the 2023-2024 school year. And so, mind you, I live in a red state, and we're doing free school lunches for students. And so it's a universal program. And a lot of people who are considered conservative are like, yeah, why wouldn't we feed our kids at school and make sure they have nutritious meals to eat, breakfast and lunch? And so now, and also because it's universal, they can't say, well, it's only going to these Black kids and they're not pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. It's like, no. The wealthy, affluent kids that go to public school, if they do go to public school, well, they're also getting free lunches too. So the kids that go to Dr. Phillips High here in Orange County, which is one of the more schools where more affluent kids go to, and the ones that are going to Jones High, which is right over here, or the ones that go to Oak Ridge or Olympia, they're all getting free lunch. It doesn't matter their economic status at all.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so who helped push for that? Right? And are we able to have more local people who are pushing for other things that also help, the most economically disadvantaged, that aren't beholden to the duopoly? Like, who do we have? And so just to prove your point, I mean, if you start off local, like, how much money is that saving families each year?
I mean, I heard a statistic recently that said, I believe it was 18% of child poverty dropped by 18% during the lockdowns because of programs like this. And then as soon as the programs were rescinded in a lot of these places, the child poverty rate went right back up the exact same 18%.
Yep.
So now you couple that with information such as, I believe 60% of elderly people are kept out of poverty every year because of Social Security, which hopefully, I know a lot of Trump voters are not in favor of getting rid of Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Hopefully Elon and Vivek don't X those programs, but if they do, what are you going to say about it? That's what that's my whole theme of the year. What are you going to say about it when he does the thing that you clearly say you don't want him to do? So that's again, that just going back to that, that's my plan for the year. Every time I see something like this, I'm going to say, okay, well, this is what's going on. So what do you have to say about it now? Because again, I know what their concerns are. For the most part, it's economics. And when he screws you economically, what are you going to do? Are you going to vote differently next time? Are you going to, again, focus on local politics where you don't necessarily have to have a Democrat or a Republican in? You can have a Green Party member in. You can have a Libertarian in. You can have a non-affiliate in. You can have somebody from the People's Party in. You can have somebody from the Workers' Party in, or the many parties that actually exist in the United States that you never hear about because of the duopoly system. You can vote them in on a local level. And that's actually how you build a movement. If you have, there's 50 states. If you have 27 mayors and governors and things like that are all Green Party representatives, all of a sudden you have a little bit more of a movement now. You have a little bit more of a coalition, because now the mayor and the governor from this state can talk to the mayor and the governor from this state, and they can exchange ideas, and what works over here now can be implemented over here. And now the green idea is spreading. I'm just using them as an example, but pick your party, but I happen to identify more with the green, at least what they say they're about. So, yeah, like that's how you build these coalitions. That's how you have viable third parties, but it does have to start local. But that's the way to do it, though. If you can vote for who you really want to, and you won't feel like you're wasting your vote or throwing it away, that's also stupid. Don't buy into that. But if you do buy into that, you're not doing that on a local level. If you're voting for mayor, governor, state representatives, state senate, city council members, things like that, these are the people that actually affect your everyday life. If you need, the pothole fixed in front of your street, it's not the president that's going to do that. It's going to be somebody local. You know what I mean? So that's where the focus is. And we just try to grow from there. But that's where I'm at with it. I just want to show people evidence, let them come to their own conclusions, and try to inspire people to get involved locally.
Yep, absolutely. And this is actually part of it as well. I talked about this earlier this week, but this is actually about the homelessness rate that actually jumped 18% in 2024. And so homelessness has been skyrocketing. It went up from 550,000 to 770,000 over the last year. And so because of that, that's really just, and people, do not, I preface this by saying, do not fall for the, oh, it's only because you had a Democrat in office. No. It's been going up with either major party in office. And so part of this is because a lot of the protections that were taken away during the pandemic, like you adequately said, that also contributed to it.
During that same time frame, Elon Musk's net worth increased by $136 billion, which made him the first person ever in the history of ever to reach $400 billion net worth. He's on pace to be the first trillionaire.
Yeah.
That's what out there while we're talking about 18% rise in homelessness. Elon made $136 billion, if I'm reading this correctly, only in the month of November. Just November.
Yeah.
In December, Musk's net worth increased further after SpaceX and its investors agreed to buy $1.25 billion worth of insider shares. Post-election, this is just after the election, Musk's net worth increased by $70 billion after the 2024 presidential election. So in a month, $70 billion increase. So this is what we're talking about. This is what's going on while 18% rise in homelessness. I just want to put that context out there, but go ahead.
In your memory, how much does it cost to end homelessness?
I believe it was between 40 and $60 billion per year. And you know what? I might be conflating that with the amount of money to send everybody to college. I apologize. I think it's 20, actually.
How much did it cost Elon to buy Twitter?
Less than 10, I'm sure. It was like 4, 5, something like that.
44
billion. 44 billion is what it cost to buy Twitter. He could have took 20 of that and ended homelessness himself and still had $24 billion left over. Is that what you're telling me?
Priority.
This is what we're dealing with.
Yep. And people say, well, it's not his responsibility. And it's like,
at a certain point, yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the number is, but there's a certain number that once you hit it, it is your responsibility.
Because you're extracting the wealth from everybody else. So therefore, if you got all the money, then guess what? It falls on you.
Yeah.
Because we would pay for it if we had the money, but you took it away from us. So therefore, you got to be the one to pay for it.
The best example, the best concrete way to have the picture painted, to me, this is what made it super clear, is if you take 10 people, and this is not even necessarily accurate, but this is just a good representation. Take 10 people, you take a pizza, and you cut it up into 20 slices. And then one of those people takes 19 slices. Mm-hmm. And then leaves the one slice for the other 9 people and says, divide that up amongst yourselves. That's what you guys get. That's our system.
Yeah.
That's our system. The Elons, the Trumps, the Bezoses, those are the guys who have 19 slices of pizza just to themselves. And everybody else is the other 9 people who are fighting over that one slice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to, and I'm sorry, if you have to go because I've kept you on longer than anticipated, but
good combo, man. I'm having fun.
Okay, cool. I wanted to also go into, because we're talking about local politics and doing things locally.
Yeah.
When it comes to workers, I wanted to get into that too, because we have seen a record number of strikes that have been happening last year. And I'm all for seeing workers wield their power in ways in which it, tells the owner class, you better give us what we need and want, or you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Do you expect to see more workers exhibiting their power this year, or is the owner class going to find a way to really suppress it even further? Because I feel like they're trying to think of ways to suppress it even further, but workers are becoming more aware each and every day, and it's happening faster than where the owner class can keep up with. What are your thoughts?
I think at least in American society, we need examples of things before we're willing to act. So, for example, I think you started seeing a lot more strikes after COVID because that was the example that we were able to see. Like, oh, when we don't show up to work, stuff is bad for these companies. We do actually have power. Before that, it was almost just like a theoretical idea because nobody had actually stopped going to work because they were too scared to, lose their job and, not be able to pay their bills and things like that. But once everyone was forced not to go to work and, people saw the ramifications of that, and like you were saying earlier, the foundational workers that they called essential workers. Essential worker just ended up being a bastardized term anyway for companies that just wanted their employees to be at work, so they were just calling everybody an essential worker. So I'm with you on the foundational workers thing, but that's kind of the point though, is they were using or workers found out the actual importance that they had during that time. So now that there was a concrete example of it, now we're willing to act on it because we see the results. We see where this is going to lead. If we don't show up to work, that's bad for them. So they kind of have to bend our will. Cool. We can act on that now. Same thing with Ukraine. When we were sending all this money to Ukraine and everyone was like, wait a minute, how come we have so many homeless people here? How come there's so many people struggling here? How come 70% of people live paycheck to paycheck here? How come 60 to 65% of people can't afford a $300 emergency? It would bankrupt them. Like, how come that's the case, but we can send 40 billion over to Ukraine? So once we started seeing concrete examples of, oh no, we do have the money, they're lying to us, we can afford this, we can do this, that's when you started seeing workers rise up. So to overall answer the question, I think that whatever tactics that the owner class and the establishment uses to attempt to suppress us as workers, it can only work for so long, because there's always going to be some sort of example of the opposite happening of whatever it is that they say, where they say, hey, we're the CEOs, we're management, we're the most important people. Okay, well, all the workers left and now you're struggling. Oh, okay, well, we quickly see that that's not the case. So once we see more examples of the opposite of what the owner class tells us being true, it'll inspire more workers to act. So I do think that you'll see more strikes. I do think that you'll see, more workers realizing their power and rising up. But I do also at the same time think it usually takes something to inspire that. It's usually not just a groundswell that happens over time. It's usually like a one-off incident, and then people are like, oh, and then they wake up real quick, and then stuff happens. So that's kind of how I see it playing out. But I do think workers are going to continue to exercise their power for sure.
Sorry, I have myself muted. So yeah, I mean, as far as the workers go, yeah, I agree. I just feel like it is up to those of us in independent media to wake more workers up to going beyond unions. I look at unions the same way I look at a public option healthcare system. While it's a step in the right direction, a public option still creates a two-tiered system, right? Whereas you have some people, above another, and it dumps, the poorest in one area versus the richest can have their own. And I believe in universality. It's the same thing with unions. Unions are great for combating, but the problem is what happens when the union bosses and the people ahead of the unions, what if they're in cahoots with the owner class? And so this is why, like you, I am more in favor of workers actually owning through worker cooperatives and the like that. There is a video that I want to share. It's kind of funny. I hope that I don't get hit for this, but
age from 65 to 70. So I want to let y'all know right now, we raising the retirement age from 65 to 70. So now you got to work from now until you 70 to afford a basic living. Bro, I'm not doing that shit. What you gonna do? Just not have a job? Hell yeah. Bitch, I'll off myself. Y'all got me fucked up. Before I work my whole motherfucking life away just to barely get by, I'll take myself up out this bitch. I'm already not making it. What more can I lose? So the young generation would rather dome they fucking self than get a job. I knew y'all didn't want to work. Bitch, when you was a kid, you could work at Walmart and pay rent, lights, and groceries. I work at Walmart right now, and I'm scared to even let them hear me hoping I could do that shit with one of my chicks, because I might have to pay a fucking fee for thinking that shit. The S&P 500 saw record-breaking profits last year. What you telling me that for? Bitch, if that's the case, why the fuck I can't eat then? I work for $1 billion company, Walmart, and I'm struggling. There you go with that shit. I bet you want us to increase wages next, huh? Yeah, shit, that would be fucking amazing. And see, then the price of stuff gonna go up. See, bitch, that's the problem I'm having, because maybe y'all need to fucking call Anonymous, and we need to get him in here and find out who hacked the motherfucking prices of shit. Because them bitches sure been moving, and my wage ain't did nothing. Well, look, citizen, humans are living longer. So we have to extend the retirement age, right? Y'all making people live longer just so they can work on. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Bitch, why the government ain't got no retirement ages? Y'all get to be rich zombies in that bitch, and you don't fucking start living good when you leave. Y'all be living good from day one. What's up with that shit? Well, maybe y'all need to go vote. I hate all politicians now. I got a better idea. Let's bring back assassination.
Word. I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? Like when you have a Walmart who, I want to say it's over 50% of all of their employees are on some form of government assistance. It's one, what's the saying? A rising tide lifts all boats, right? So if you were to pay those workers more, let's say you pay them a living wage in wherever their state is. It could be different everywhere, right? Whatever a living wage is for their locale. Let's say you pay them that. Where are they going to shop? Most likely they're going to shop at Walmart, right? Because it has everything. So they're going to get their groceries from there. They're going to get their home supplies from there, all that stuff, right? So they're making enough money to be able to afford their bills, to be able to afford gas in their car, expenses, etc. But they're also able to have enough expendable money to spend in the economy, which is going back to Walmart, which is going to benefit who? The people who own Walmart. So at the end of the day, if you pay the workers more money, you're still going to benefit. It might be a slower effect, but all that money's still coming back to you at the end of the day if you're an owner. So I never understood why, because I'm pretty sure it's actually built into the law, and maybe you can explain this, but why should the fiduciary responsibilities to shareholders, it's like actually a legal obligation and with corporations. And so, but just that wording seems pretty ambiguous. So it's like, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean if a health insurance company were to actually approve every single one, that they would not be doing their fiduciary responsibility, would therefore be breaking the law? Like, I don't understand what that even means necessarily. You get what I'm, because the purpose of a health insurance company is to pay for health care. So if they're doing their job, how are they breaking the law at the same time?
No, it's not. The purpose of a healthcare company, healthcare insurance company, is not to pay for healthcare. It's to maximize profits. Right.
Under the guise of providing healthcare.
Under the guise. It's a facade.
As a purpose outside of, I mean, every corporation's purpose, number one, first and foremost, is of course the profit. But then there's the whatever industry they're in. So if you're in music, obviously your job is to produce music and entertain people. It's to make profit, number one. But in this, you see what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, well, there's an expectation if I'm paying a health insurance company that I will receive service in exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. The fiduciary responsibility really just means, in fact,
because it's like that's specific, but it's also very vague at the same time, like the way that that's worded. Just max. Yeah. Okay, well, what does that mean? Like,
so let me share this because I would like for people to know exactly what things mean, especially with the audience. That's what I'm really centered on. It says fiduciary responsibility is an ethical obligation to act in the best interest of an organization or client rather than in one's own self-interest. Fiduciaries are legally required to act in this way. So the fiduciary responsibility is typically a fiduciary responsibility to financially make sure that the company or organization is consistently making more profit. So even if it's year over year, it could be 0.3%, 0.4%, 0.5% profit, but the profits have to go up, meaning that the shareholders, their dividend checks have to go up each and every year. And by any means necessary is done. So that could be in raising prices. It could be cutting quality control. It could be cutting safety measures. It could be cutting employee pay. But this is how it's done. And that's part of the fiduciary responsibility that's done by the COO, the CFO, and the CEO. But that's one of the issues of capitalism, is that fiduciary responsibility is to the very small group of people. It's always to shareholders and the owners, not the stakeholders. Stakeholders being people that are the workers, the people who are the customers, the people who in the environment that surround that company or that business. So unfortunately, it's more focused, prioritizing the people who actually are the owners, not the people who are affected the most. And so that's one of the biggest issues with the fiduciary responsibility type. And it is a law, meaning that if they do not do that, then they can get in trouble legally for not maximizing profits, because the owner class owns the government and makes it so that they have to legally create more profits every single year.
And see, that's what I mean when I'm talking about the incentive being perverse in itself. And that, a lot of people's natural instincts probably wouldn't lead them to the decisions that they have to make when they're in these positions. But because it's built in such a way to where you can get in legal trouble for doing the right moral thing, that's going to place a lot of people in a conundrum, So that's always why I argue for systemic change rather than, the individualistic change, because of course everybody has some level of personal responsibility and individualistic drive and things like that. Like, yes, there are certain people who get in their own way. I think everybody's willing to admit that. But I think what I try to do that a lot of our friends on the right don't do is we diagnose systemic issues, and they will see a systemic issue and then their remedy for it will be individualism still. They'll see a systemic issue. They'll see that 70% of the country is living paycheck to paycheck, and then they'll say, oh, okay, well, that means 70% of the country needs to work harder. 70% of the country somehow got lazy. 70% of the country are bad people. Like that's their conclusion. Maybe 5 to 10% just fell on bad times, but the most of them just need to get their shit together. Whereas us on the left look at that and we go, seems like there's a bigger problem here, because how the fuck did 70% of people all end up in the same situation? You know what I mean? So that's why I focus on systemic things such as ending the drug war, such as, universal healthcare, such as universal education, things of that nature. When you cover those bases, that allows for individuals to then reach their full potential and they can go get it however they need to. But when you expect that from people who are starting below sea level, and then some people are born on the yacht floating above the sea, you know, how do you expect them to get to the same place?
Yeah. So I want to share this because I think you'll also get something out of this as well. So let me share this as well. It keeps starting.
Strike so much.
Hang on. It keeps starting when I don't want it to start. Okay. So this is Amazon bosses squirm under questioning. So let's take a listen.
If Amazon's such a great place to work, as you've said, that's what you hear time and time again from your team. Why have your team in Coventry gone on strike so much?
I think it's important to note that we absolutely support their right to do that.
That hasn't answered the. Excuse me. I've obviously we've sat here for quite a while now. I feel like I might need to get lessons from you both at some point in how to not answer the question that was asked directly. If you're that good an employer that you've explained to us so far, why have your workers in Coventry gone on strike so much?
I think they're executing their rights as we absolutely would protect their ability to do. I've shared some data around that building about how employees are telling us it's a great place to work. What I would love to do is invite you here to come and see the building yourself.
I really apologize for interrupting you. My question was why. You haven't answered why. You've told me that, again, it's a great place to work and you've got all this data and I'd love to come and see what you do. Yes, but why? That's the one thing you haven't answered yet, which is the question I actually asked you. Why?
I think that's a good moment for me to, again, extend the invitation.
But it's a good moment for you to not... No, sorry, I'm really sorry. I'm going to really push this point.
Okay.
It's a great opportunity for you to not answer my question. If you are such a great place to work, and I'd like to congratulate you, said you won an award recently on being a great place to work. If you are that great a place to work, why have your workers in Coventry gone on strike so much?
Our employees have the right to join a trade union or not to join a trade union, and we totally respect that.
I'm pulling teeth at this point. So far, I'll ask it once more.
Yeah.
I'll ask it once more, and then I'll give up because I don't think I'm going to get an answer. Why have they gone on strike so much? What is the reason behind it? You talk to workers every day, you've told us, and that's what your teams do. So when you ask them, why are you going on strike? What's their answer back to you? Why are they striking?
They were demonstrating their right to support the trade union that they were a member of. Simply put.
Sorry, supporting a trade union isn't a legal reason for people to go on strike. What was the legal reason that they went on strike as set out in the paperwork that needs to be supplied to the employer in the relevant notice period?
You mean the ballot for strike action?
Yes, that's right. What was the legal reason?
There are multiple scenarios over the recognition attempts that the GMB has made.
We're not talking about recognition. We're talking about the 37 days of industrial action at BHX4 in Coventry. Paperwork needs to be supplied to the employer that lists the reason for strike action. What was the reason given for strike action on those 37 days in answer to my colleague's question?
Mr. Morgan?
In order to take industrial action, a union needs to win a ballot. In order to have a legal ballot, they need to supply to the employer some paperwork that lists the reason, and it needs to be a legal reason. Supporting their union is not a legal reason. It needs to be a legal reason as to why they wish to take strike action for that ballot to go ahead and be lawful and not be challenged in the courts. What was the legal reason on the paperwork supplied to you why your workers at Coventry BHX4 went on strike?
That's one I would be willing to write back on. I don't have the information top of mind, or I can't recall it. We have been over the series of 2 years working with the GMB through this process. So we have responded back and forth for several claims, several allegations, I would say, that simply we don't recognize. So please let me come back on that one.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, you don't know why the people went on strike? I think just to reinforce Jennifer's point that we'll write back on that. I don't have that detail point. Okay. You're required to be open with us as a committee. You're sure you don't want to lay out why the people went on strike now? I guess I fully understand our responsibilities as in front of the committee.
That was amazing.
Right?
That was great. That was beautiful. That was amazing. That was good. That was good. Salute to both of them for just sticking to their guns. The first guy, he was really I love him. He's like,
Yeah.
I really have to. I'm sorry for interrupting, but you're not answering my question. Yep, you're telling me everything. No, I'm sure it's a great place to work, and I will come and see, all that. But why are they like? Yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Make them answer the question.
Yeah. And instead of just allowing them to circle around, and as many of us know, that wasn't American legislator that was questioning Amazon. They were in a completely different country, and this is and they're mildly better than what we have, just mildly better. Can you imagine if workers really actually had control of the government?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, because you know what I'm saying.
I think we all know what you're saying, brother.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so yeah. So with that being said, there are a couple of chats that have questions. Some have questions for you. Are you able to take some questions?
Definitely. Who wants to talk to me? What's up, y'all?
All right. We got some. I love my audience. My audience is deeply educated. They're also deeply compassionate people. And I love the audience that we have over here on the Jaybefaunt channel. So I'm going to go into the Rockfin. Actually, let me check the Rumble chat first to see if we have any Rumble rants, any chats in the Rumble, because unfortunately I can only look at it through the Rumble side. It looks like we're good on the Rumble side. So we're good there. Let's get into the Rockfin. I know that Roger has been... He's been saying, come to Rockfin, come to Rockfin, come to Rockfin. I'm like, I got you, bro. I didn't say anything, but I got you. All right, so let me share right here, and we'll go into that. All right, so in the Rockfin side, Roger says, James, Michigan and Arizona both are citizen ballot initiatives for amendment laws and repeal of law states. Arizona, when it comes to introducing new taxes or raising existing taxes, ratified a 2022 amendment requiring 60% threshold for ratification. With that said, I'd like to help Shane run a citizen ballot initiative amendment for the following Arizona Public Bank, public financing of ballot measures, single payer worker co-op laws for 2026 ballot, or move back to Michigan where you don't. Thank you very much for the tip on Rockfin Hemp Card. It says my predictions for 2025 are from Future Warfare circa 2025 by NASA Dennis Bushnell. It is in collaboration with every letter agency under the sun. It talks about the bio-nano era, predicted direct energy weapons, microdusting of universe, and CNN syndrome. No pixie dust swarm technology on the cheap, it reads. So this is from fas.org. Thank you very much for that. And then this also from Future Strategic Issues, Future Warfare circa 2025 from NASA. The hell? Okay, I'm gonna have to look at that later because that is interesting. Okay. And so yeah, I can put that in the chat, Hempcar. And then Roger says, have the 60% threshold, no single subject rule or restrictions, but the time window to gather signatures in Michigan is 6 months as opposed to Arizona, 18 months. However, with no single subject rule, we can stuff all of those subjects under one initiative. Said I DM'd you your next story as to part 2 to Wednesday show. How do I reach out to Shane? Okay, I can put his Instagram if you have Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Threads, I'm on Snapchat, TikTok, everything is at Shane_Ethos.
Okay. So I'll put that in. But your thoughts on the citizen ballot initiatives as a form of direct democracy, really?
I encourage everybody who I speak with, around election season to, if you don't want to vote for president because you're just totally morally opposed to the two candidates that were presented every time, I understand that. But make sure that you do the direct ballot initiatives, because those are the things that directly affect your district, your city, your state. For example, federally, it is still illegal to, enjoy recreational marijuana, but in Arizona, we were able to pass that as a direct ballot initiative. So I definitely think direct ballot initiatives they're more important, if anything, because it directly affects, what's going on. And there's nobody to say yes or no. If the citizens vote on it and they get the majority rule, it's in place. So I'm totally that's the one thing I stress: do vote for if you don't vote for anybody specific.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yeah, because there's a lot of citizen ballot initiative states that could circumvent the politicians so that you don't have to depend on them in order to get what we need as working and poor people. And I highly encourage anybody to push for citizen ballot initiatives. And in fact, there's some ideas that I have about doing more notices for ballot initiatives. And I want to do some more. I want to do some more shows focusing more on local, because that directly affects us on a very local level, especially when it comes to the poor and working poor in our areas, because we need a win, and I'm tired of us losing. So yeah. I think there was another question here on. I think there was another question on here. Somebody asked. I want to make sure I had it starred so it's not lost. That I wanted to get into as well. Was that one for me? Oh. Grant says, have you interviewed Andy Ellis yet? He's running to be the Green Governor of Maryland. I have not. This is my first hearing about him. So I would like to interview anybody that's running outside of Duopoly. But yes, I have not heard from that person before. But yeah, that sounds very interesting. But yeah, so I was able to do that. And yeah, man, I really do think that when it comes to the predictions for 2025, just this question too. Do you think that it will be a better year for workers, or is it going to be kind of, do you think that it's going to be kind of like the Empire Strikes Back? It's going to be, the bosses strike back. What do you think?
That's really hard to say, only because it ultimately depends on. It depends on what's more important to Trump at the end of the day. As far as the direction that the entire government takes, if he stays more the course of what his MAGA supporters want, I think that would be better for workers. If he ends up kind of siding more with the Elon Vivek side of things, I think that is worse for workers. I don't think necessarily either way will be good for workers, but I do think that if it's more important to him to appeal to his base, then that's a better scenario for workers. So it's hard to say right now. It kind of just ultimately depends on where Trump's loyalty lies. If it lies more with the Elon tech bro side, or if it relies more on the MAGA side.
Gotcha. That's actually a very nuanced. That's a very nuanced response. I appreciate it. I also took a poll for this. out of 74 votes, do you think 2025 will be better for workers? Well, 11% said better for workers. 54% said worse for workers. So they're not looking forward to what could happen this year. 15% said no change, and 20% said not sure as far as this poll goes. I'm at the point now where I think that I don't trust these the owner class as far as I can throw them.
No.
I think that the workers are actually it's going to be worse off, but it's going to work out in our favor because it's going to be a mask off moment for more workers. And the mask off moment isn't knowing that, oh, well, these guys have all the power. It's that if we come together, then we can have all the power. Mm-hmm. And so I hope that moment switches in 2025 where people go, oh, all we got to do is just unite together among a common goal. That's it. And so, and then they actually do the action.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see it, again, everyone's not going to react the same way Luigi did, but people are going to react.
Yeah.
People react when, their back's against the wall. Again, you put a dog in a corner, eventually he bites. All those metaphors that we all use. It's that, you can only suppress people for so long.
Yeah. You didn't give us Bernie, so you got Luigi.
I mean, there you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't do that. What the heck? StreamYard, what you doing? So with that being said, if you can let people know where they can find you, what do you have coming up? I kept you long enough because it was a good conversation.
And it's all good. I appreciate being here, like I said, man. But y'all can follow me personally at Shane_Ethos on basically every social media. Ethos Media Network is our YouTube page. You can also find us on all streaming platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, et cetera, all the way down. You can download all the audio podcasts there. We are not just an inherently political YouTube channel. I do want to, make that clear. We focus mainly on the urban culture at large. So recently, as you see, I just did an interview with Kirk Rich and at Hey Dom 803. That's for our show Entreprenegros, which we focus on Black business people who are, doing different things in various industries. Basically just showing, that you don't have to be a rapper or an athlete in order to be financially successful. There are other ways, and we try to lay out some of those blueprints for people who don't necessarily know, what those first steps are. Of course, there's Politics as Usual, which has featured my man Jaybefaunt right here multiple times. Bar Exam is a hip hop show where we discuss, the actual lyrics of songs, what they mean, just different things going on in the entertainment industry. OTI is a more social commentary show. We had 2 seasons with all gentlemen, one of which was including myself. And this past season was all ladies, giving some of this, speaking on some of the same subjects, but from, a different perspective, obviously. So those are the shows that we have on the YouTube, and you can find us there. Again, that's at Ethos Media Network. If you want to follow me, again, Snapchat, Instagram, Threads is probably where I'm most active today. And that is going to be Shane_Ethos. And if you like the content, subscribe on Patreon too.
All right, perfect. And so also the link to Ethos Media Network on YouTube is also in the description, so you guys can go straight there. If you're doing this on the rewatch, Mr. Shane Graham, I appreciate you coming on. It was a privilege and an honor to have you. And your brilliant analysis has been much needed for this, especially these predictions. So I just want to thank you for coming on.
Hey, I appreciate you for having me once again. And I look forward to the next time we get to talk, man. I'm sure there's going to be more craziness to discuss. So I'm here for it.
You better be prepared. You better have yourself a good seat cushion, because I'm gonna have your ass over here for 4 hours. All right, man. Take care. I see you in the background.
All righty.
All right. All right, folks. So I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed that conversation. I'm looking forward to a lot. As far as my personal predictions that I'm going to have this year, number one, I'm hoping, no, I will get a kidney transplant this year, and it will be wildly successful. And I know I will be so much better than what I am right now. And then for channel wise, I will hit 5,000 subs. I will be there. I'll be there by the summer, and then we'll do a celebration. As far as personally, as well, it's going to be a decent year. I'm going to keep my head down, and I'm going to keep doing the things that I can to make sure that I'm personally doing becoming the best version of myself. And it's going to be something that I hope that you all take notice of. And I just want to be the example that I've always wanted to see, So that being said, if you guys have not, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. Appreciate it very much. It means the world to me if you guys can do that. And also, I'll be giving a shout out to patrons as well, because I wanted to make sure that I do that as well. But before we get into that, let's get into the chats. I have a couple chats that I want to get into and make sure I get to that really quick. So let's talk. So we have Cowboy Kitty coming in saying hello, good to see you. Cobra Commander says just all around worse for the planet and life on it, really. Yep, and Cobra Commander also says, hey JB, you're the best. I hope you know that. That is very sweet. Thank you so very much. It deeply appreciated. John H says, hey comrades, good to see you in here. Roger came into the YouTube chat and said both Michigan and Arizona are ballot initiative states for amendments, laws, and repeal laws. Arizona ratified an amendment that says anything new taxes introduced or tax hikes requires 60% for ratification. Tim Price, part of the RBN Orlando chapter, says, all right, only 11 minutes late. Yep, better late than never. Mouse coming in saying, all my friends, good to see you in here, Mouse. Creative Experiments says, economic collapse this month will increase support for anti-capitalism. You think that more people will start to turn against capitalism this year? Because it started happening a lot last year, and that's indicative of TikTok, right? And so I'm starting to see, I'm hoping that it grows among white people because they're the majority. That's what I'm hoping for. Will it happen? I think so. Will it be enough to turn the tide? Instead of us going into a fascist revolution, we go into a socialist revolution? I'm hoping for the latter. But it's going to happen either way. I just hope that it goes against capitalism. Jay says someone got to mute the Discord. Yeah, unfortunately, I forgot to. I didn't hear at first, but it's okay. We were able to make it through, and it was pretty good. Joey says all those goods and components can be made local for cheaper with biomaterials for cheaper than this oil and petrochemical economy. Yes, and Joey Peltier is also a friend of their channel, and hopefully, without any interruptions, I'll see you in a few weeks on here. So thank you very much, Joey Peltier. Laura says, Howard Zinn described the ruling class billionaires as addicts, just like drug addicts. I think that's a good way to describe them. I wouldn't insult addicts like that. Billionaires are parasites. Addicts are because of trauma and stuff like that. Billionaires I don't even want to give him that much credit. But I see what you're saying, Laura, and yeah, I respect you for being very kind. Savita says, yes, people just want to zone out watching TV after work and don't educate themselves. It's not that they don't want to, it's that they're too exhausted to. That's what happens a lot, is that we're overworked to the point of exhaustion. And then when we just want to rest our brain, and it's okay to veg out, then we're chastised and criticized for vegging out and resting our brain. Because then you got people like Vivek Ramaswamy, who's worth over $1 billion, who says, oh, well, you guys were watching Boy Meets World and Family Matters. And it's like, yeah, because we're exhausted. We want to escape because you and your billionaire buddies have been working us to the bone instead of allowing us to actually make a living wage so that we can rest our minds and then be able to take our kids to, the math Olympiads on the weekends, which a lot of us can't because of class. And by class, I mean, working class, the working class versus the wealthy. We have to work on the weekends and we can't afford to take our kids, or we can't afford to give our kids tutors like your parents could have. And yes, your parents came here with degrees. And so they were able to start on second and third base, even though parents like mine helped build this country. My ancestors helped build this country, but we're not even on the field. So people like Vivek Ramaswamy has a lot of nerve to say what he said. And if he had to start below the field, if he had to start in the dugout, like those of us, then he wouldn't know what the hell to do. He wouldn't be able to get there like we could. And even then, nobody should have to. That's the point. We shouldn't have to. Creative Experiment says profit and money aren't the same thing. Absolutely. Tim says, isn't it law that CEOs have to maximize shareholder profit? Yes, we spoke about that, about the fiduciary responsibility. Joey Peltier says that plastic case for your PlayStation can be made from hemp bio resin. Absolutely. Yes, that is also very true. A lot of times we don't talk about how we can actually make things more environmentally friendly, and it also could probably be made cheaper too. I mean, correct me on that, Joey, but it can also be made lower cost, which would also lower the costs of things like a PS5. Jason says, I think he's arguing for commerce. Capitalism is not the same thing. Yeah, a lot of times, we may get that a little bit mixed up, commerce versus capitalism, but at the same time, we all still see the flaws in the system, and we're arguing that, not even arguing, we're pushing for a completely different system either way. So, but yes, you're absolutely right. Joey says those batteries and semiconductors can be made from hemp, sourced locally as a side crop for our farmers. Yep, absolutely. Creative Experiment says class enforcement requires the ruling class to allow certain types of violence. Yes, and that violence would mean pushing back against anybody that tries to leave the capitalist system in the dust, because they need you to be beholden to the system, not just financially, but not just materially, but also in all aspects of our lives. Jacqueline says it won't be just Luigi on trial; it will be the whole U.S. health system, and there will be more than 12 jurors deciding innocence or guilt. Ooh, that's a good one, Jacqueline. Absolutely, the court of public opinion is very strong and very powerful. And this is why they're trying to do things like cancel TikTok and trying to, gut things like that as well. Bad Wolf says Vic made his money selling fake pharmaceuticals. he cheated a lot of people. That's how he got there. Absolutely. Thank you so very much for that. Joey says we are also in a medical apartheid that racism must be addressed as well as we move to a universal healthcare system. Just saying. Yeah, and the medical apartheid is something that doesn't get addressed as well. I kind of vacillate back and forth with Roger about us having a nationalized healthcare system, but having, like, for instance, a Freedmen's hospital, Freedmen clinics. Like, should we have those exclusively for us? And then, everybody else has, their own under a universal healthcare system, or should it just be universal? I still vacillate between those, because it's like, if somebody's white and they have an emergency and there's a hospital nearby, but it's a Freedmen's hospital, you know what I'm saying? Are we going to deny that white person from coming in? You know what I'm saying? And so, I don't know, man. Like, I think that, of course, we should have hospitals that are more up to and sensitive to the differences and variables that happen, especially with those of us who are Black American. But should we have our own separate hospitals? I don't know, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It depends. But that's a whole different argument. That's a whole different conversation. That's one of those it feels like that's one of those post-revolution conversations that we need to have. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. But we'll hash it out somehow. We're all still on the same side anyway, but Pine says, Elon, the reason why you are in America is because your rich dad was an apartheid maniac and sent you to the right schools. Please go back to Africa. No, baby. No. Elon is European. Send his ass back to Europe. No, the Africans, they don't want him back either. Let's just be real. They don't want him back. Look, France, Belgium, Poland, Germany, y'all take Elon. Elon's one of y'all. Sorry. Britain, Elon's one of y'all. Jacqueline says, when you pick a book to read on YouTube, do you read it first just in case you don't like it? I just pick a book based on the interest that it has on the outset. My initial interest of it. That's typically how I pick a book. And then also I try to take into account also the authors. Like, one of the ones that I want to read next, I think, is called Blading Sweetgrass, primarily because of the message, as well as that it's an indigenous author, right? So I want to do that. One of the reasons why I chose Assata Shakur's autobiography was not only because it was about Black liberation, but it was also by a Black female author, and it was about her life. And so I want to center not just authors, but authors that are marginalized as well, from marginalized communities, because we don't care enough for them. But at the same time, there's also some authors that may be white that also have really interesting and awesome takes too. Like, I read Michael Parenti. So I also look at them as well, based on some of the ideas that they have that I think that will be pertinent to the working class, especially. But I choose based on that. Thank you very much for that. And of course, I think there's another there's more comments on Rockman, and I'll go to that as well. Do you guys like me going live like every other Saturday like this? I kind of like it. So Hamkar said Musk made the most off of the pandemic. Trump praises big pharma money and says his warp speed was great. It is always great when you can force them for questions and make them admit their lies. Yeah, unfortunately, when it comes to anything out of Facebook, Hemcar, I don't have a Facebook account anymore, so I can't see anything off Facebook. So unfortunately, I won't be able to read it. It says, but then we wouldn't have plastic soups the size of Africa in our ocean or plastic microdust in our lungs. Roger says, now you know full well I wasn't talking about a Freedmen's hospital that discriminates, but a Freedmen hospital owned by us. Just like Catholic and Jewish hospitals admit everyone, but they're owned by the Catholic Church or the Jews. Come on, you got to give me more credit than that, just ownership. Okay, all right. My apologies, Roger. So, okay. Well, if you put it like that, I mean, that changes it. I guess I can concede to that. I mean, you're a very logically minded person, but with that logic, you also are very compassionate. So, I mean, I this brother be taking me to school sometimes. I'm telling you. All right, Roger. I can see. Okay. Freedmen's Hospital, or is it just ownership by Freedmen? Okay. I can concede to that. You got me. And I was wrong. I was wrong on your position. My apologies. I misinterpreted your position. So I'm sorry. You see, Hepcar said Fidel said in Harlem in the 1990s that when America needs doctors, Cuba will be there to send them. A Catholic institution buried the dead kids from Fauci's AIDS experiments. Oh, geez. Incarceration something. They took King to St. Joseph's Hospital and the doctor, Green Bland, murked them. Oh, my gosh. I read Revolutionary Self-Harm, I got to be careful what I say, by Huey. And then From Bullet to Ballet about Hampton. Got to watch that Asada reading. Want to read Seal Seas today, too. Yeah, in fact, the Asada Shakur reading I did, if you guys want to, that's actually on the playlist on my channel. So I read Asada Shakur's autobiography. So if you guys want to read that, that's there too. But yeah, thank you very much for that, Hempcar. And sorry, I got to be careful what I read and say on this channel. Even though I'm demonetized, but that's how they are. Rondo says Vegeta's forehead. Rondo, you're going to get me in trouble. Needs to stop acting like he wasn't in the front of the theater watching 8 Mile. Oh my gosh. You know what? Roger, get your boy. Get your boy. Get your homeboy right there. You bad, Rondo. You are bad. Bad Wolf says, when I worked at a trauma at Tampa and Tampa General, they paid for all my education. Well, interesting, because that's where I'm trying to get my transplant at. Tampa General. That's a good omen right there, Bad Wolf. Thank you very much. See, this is why I love y'all. Y'all just Pine says, JB, they don't want Elon in Europe anyways. Is this why he tried to go to Mars? Because nobody wants him? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Janice says, just finished Malcolm X. Oh, you did his autobiography? I'm gonna read that too. Ooh. Okay. All right. I gotta remember that too. I also want to do State and Revolution on here. I know it's gonna sound very bland, but I'll try to zhuzh it up. But yeah. Adam says there was a lot of chapters removed from Malcolm X's autobiography, and also it's been edited in parts about the Jews were taken out and added. Interesting. What? It says Alex Haley and whoever he was working with changed his autobiography. Alex Haley was the same guy that did Roots. If he changed it, then that's wrong. He shouldn't have changed it. Yeah, if there's an unedited version, we should be able to read that. No, Travis Wool says Tampa General, a military hospital, they only serve officers. No, because they do transplants. They do pancreatic transplants, liver and kidney transplants. Yeah, I'm able to do it, and I'm never military. I'm definitely not police. So yeah. Wardy says Marvin the Martian will blast Elon the minute he's in his crosshairs. Isn't that lovely? Elon stole the space modulator. Oh my gosh. Adam says missing chapters are now owned by Schomburg Center. What? So I know that, okay, this is crazy, y'all. Because here's one thing I found out was that the speeches and a lot of the footage from Martin Luther King Jr. is owned by Steven Spielberg, the director. Yeah, he owns those recordings and speeches by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So if we want to play them, like, we'll get a copyright claim from Steven Spielberg. That's wicked. That should be in the hands of his family. Like, the Kings should own that media. And yet Steven Spielberg, a Zionist, owns it? Wicked. Yes, Bad Wolf. That's evil. That's our heritage. And here you got a Zionist that supports apartheid in Israel, allegedly. That literally owns what we should own. That's, you know what I'm saying? That don't make no damn sense. Like, what if I owned the Diary of Anne Frank? What if I owned the rights to the Diary of Anne Frank? Would that be fair? You know, what if I owned the property, you know, that people that, you know, it just don't make no damn sense. But yeah, go ahead and Google it, man. It's insane. Yes, Mouse says that's insanity. It's our cultural heritage. Yes. EMK says that's messed up. Yup. But a lot of people don't realize that. And you Google it right now. Go on Google and just look it up. Jacqueline says, unlike the prosecutors of Luigi, at least you know the word allegedly means. I know what it means. Yeah, absolutely, man. It is wild how they will you know, man, these people. But yeah, so when it comes to and I'll be doing the readings. I forgot which readings. I think the next reading is Presidential by Margaret Kimberly. So I'll be doing that reading next. So I'll be getting into that. Traveler's Wolf, alleged doesn't mean guilty. Don't stop being so facetious right now. Okay, guys. So with that being said, let me give a shout out to the patrons on Patreon, because without you guys, I would not be able to do this work. You guys just make this so wonderful. I just love you. You guys make the world go round. You guys been around the world and I can't find my baby. I don't know when, I don't know why. Why he's going away and I don't know where he can be. My baby, now I'm gonna find him. Maya Jaybefaunters, these are the tiers. Super duper Jaybefaunters, super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters, comrades. They are the big healthy bunch. Solidarity and JB members. And to any future members, I just want to give a big, squishy, hearty, moist thank you for your contributions. Well, maybe not moist, but you never know. But thank you so very much to everybody. All of you guys make this possible. And also just to let you guys know, in addition to and furthermore, my channel is demonetized. So if you like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. Thank you so very much to everybody. You guys make this channel even better. You guys make this channel delicious and nutritious. All right. So with that being said, did I just say moist on my own channel? Thank God I'm not on somebody else's channel. What in the world? Why in the hell do you guys watch me? Goodness gracious. Now, let me check and see who I got coming up next, because I'm kind of curious. Who do I have? Let me see. So I'll be doing news stories on this Tuesday, and I'm back from the holiday dialysis schedule. So, of course, this Tuesday, I'll be live again. Do you guys want me to go live at 3? Do you guys prefer 3 o'clock, or should I just stick with the 2 o'clock? Because it's 2025, and this will be my official regular day back again. What do you guys think? I should. You know what I should do? I should put a poll in the community section on YouTube, and I should also do it on Twitter. I can't do it on Facebook because I don't have a Facebook anymore. But I should say, do you guys want me to do 3 o'clock? Or stay at 2 o'clock on my channel? But I just want to get kind of like a pre-vote here. What do you guys think? Should I stay at 2 o'clock or start going to 3 o'clock on Tuesdays? Because if I start going at 3 o'clock, that's going to be a little bit better for me as far as getting my show ready. But at the same time, it might be better for some people because they're able to see it, or it's going to be easier to see it, because I know some people have to, because I know a lot of y'all have to work. My favorite planet says 3. Traveler's Wolf says earlier is good for me, but I'm not yet the best demographic. You see, Roger says I got a part 2 to Wednesday's show. Check the also. I forget. I gotta finish these 2 episodes. But yeah, I still got to finish them, Roger. I'm sorry. But yeah, I got to get to. Rondo says, do what's best for you. Jay says 2 p.m. because then you finish just as we serve dinner. Okay. Travis Wolf says you do you. Says just sync with the other channels. But that's the thing, though, because if I do 3 o'clock, by the time I'm done, it'll be 5 or 5:30ish. If I run long, it'll be 6. But it doesn't interfere with Savvy, right? And then on top of it, if Nick wants to do a show, because if Nick does a show, he typically does it like 1 if he does do a show on Tuesday. So then by the time 3 o'clock hits, he's done, right? And I'm trying not to interfere with any of my comrades in RBN, right? But at the same time, this is why I'm not on Tuesday evenings, because Savvy is live on Tuesday evenings. That's the reason why I'm not live, because I want to make sure that I don't pull away any audience from my sister. And, I want to be able to, I want to be people to be able to watch both of us without having to choose between us. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm not live in the evenings, because otherwise I will probably go live at 6 in the evening. I'm gonna do a poll. I'm gonna do a poll and watch out for it in the community tab. And then I'm gonna do a poll on Twitter as well, just to see, because I don't want to go past 5. Really, I really don't want to go past 4, because if I go long, then it'll be 3-hour stream. Because I really don't want to run into Savvy. So yeah, that's why. You know what I'm saying? Because I want everybody to be able to get all of us in without having to choose. So I don't like competing with my comrades. We're about collaboration, not we're about collaboration and cooperation, not competition. Laura says, whatever time you decide, I'm there. I'm easier either way. Okay. All right. Kenneth says 3 p.m. Look, all respect to, people like Glenn. Glenn, he gets in where he fits in, and Glenn is a journalist that does really important work. So thank you very much for that, Mouse. So yeah. All right, everybody. So I'll just do a poll and I'll see what you guys think, because I want to get what the people think. Let me check to see if anybody said anything on Rumble. So yeah, we're good on Rumble. And then Rockfin guys, Hemp Car. Let me see. Hemp Car said, oh my goodness. I just want to be close to you by Maxi Priest. Oh my goodness. Wait, how did it go? Oh, I'm trying to get the cadence right. Do all the things you want me to. I just want to be close to you. Show you the way I feel. I just want to be close to you. Do all the things you want me to. Oh my goodness. Next thing you know, I'll be like, I found the masterpiece in you. The work of art is true. And I treasure you, my love. Let me stop. Oh gosh. Why in the hell do y'all watch this channel? I'm approaching 3 hours. Let me get my behind out of here. Oh, wait. Jacqueline asks, can you raid into other channels? This is where you finish and say Savvy has just gone live. You can take your audience into Savvy's live stream. perhaps you have to be on Twitch. No, but, also I'm not under principle. I'm not streaming on Twitch anymore because you cannot say anything against Zionism on Twitch anymore because they'll pull your channel. So just on the basis of principle, I'm not streaming on Twitch anymore. So that's why you don't see me on Twitch. Plus, how many people do I get watching me on Twitch? I don't get really many people watching me on Twitch. But unfortunately, here's the issue. I can say that, but most people aren't going to just move over. Like, for instance, if there was a subject that I really wanted to talk about, like, for instance, the pandemic, right, with the jab. And if I really wanted to talk about it, but I can only talk about it on Rockfin and Rumble. And if I say, well, we're going to talk about this on Rockfin and Rumble, move over here, and I can post a link and everything, so that everybody can move over, most people wouldn't actually do it. They would, the numbers would drop like a rock, and most people wouldn't even watch. That's just how it is. Because a lot of people, they do not want to move over. It's like they just want to stay right there. And if they're like, well, we're going to move over and talk about this subject, they're not going to do it. I'm just being real with you. I've seen it on many channels where people will go, well, we're going to move over to this. It would have to be like a really, really big channel that does it. And then people would move over. Like a Richie Medhurst can probably do that. I know Jimmy Dore can do that. Oh my goodness, the other comedian, he has 5 million subs. He just got really deep into Christianity now. I'm blanking on his name. Can't believe I'm blanking on his name. He's English. Help me out here in the chat. Russell Brand. Yes, thank you, Mouse. Russell Brand. Oh, George Galloway does that too? Okay, I didn't know. But yeah, Russell Brand. He can do that, right? With the amount of subs that he has. But it just wouldn't work for me. Now, I would, I'm trying to grow the channel. But of course, when you're demonetized, YouTube also does not see you as much of a priority because you're not necessarily making as much money for them. So, yeah. And thank you, Adam. I appreciate that you're watching me on Rumble right now. I appreciate that very much. And also on channels like Rumble, they don't really pay you anything as far as monetization goes. Like, they barely pay you anything. The only time I actually get actual real money is through Rumble Rants. And I've only gotten only 2 Rumble Rants in my entire existence on Rumble. That's it. Right now, the only platform that I make the most money right now is on Rockfin. And I don't have the numbers to be able to do very well there yet. So if you guys want to, start going to Rockfin, things like that, then you guys can subscribe to Rockfin. Rockfin is actually pretty cool because that's actually a co-op ran platform as opposed to Rumble or YouTube. So if you guys would like to, Rockfin, man, that's where Roger is, Roger says, what it would take is someone designing a new operating system for a new smartphone pre-installed with YouTube competitor cooperatively owned. Yeah, basically, Roger. Basically. China has an operating system. Yeah, they do. Definitely do. So yeah, I think I bored you guys enough. So I'm gonna head on out. Plus, I gotta eat dinner. I got a salad waiting for me in the kitchen. So I'm going to head on now. But thank you very much, Cobra Commander. Says, I followed you on Rumble, so when I get silenced by Google, I'll probably be there. Good deal. That's also a reason why I'm on Rumble. That's the reason why a lot of us are still on Rumble. But Rumble doesn't pay jack squat. I'm just being real with y'all. Like, and I get advertisement. I get ads on Rumble, but they barely pay anything. So that's, Rumble just, and a lot of people aren't leaving YouTube because YouTube really has almost a monopoly on. They have a monopoly when it comes to the video streaming, long form streaming. When it comes to short form, though, they're trying to get into the market like TikTok, but TikTok has that on lock. YouTube is trying, and Meta is trying as well with Instagram, but they just can't do it like TikTok can. They can't. And this is another reason why they want to ban TikTok too, is because, and somebody made this point. They said they don't necessarily want to ban TikTok. They want TikTok to be in the hands of an American corporation. So then they can control what you say and hear on TikTok like they can on Meta and Twitter. That's what it is, right? But TikTok is like, no, we're not going to censor people like you do in America. So this is why TikTok is still not as censored. They're censored, but they're not as censored. You know what I'm saying? Even though you have to switch your words around. But when TikTok, before the Texas, before Project Texas, TikTok was basically like way more easier. You can, and people like somebody like me, I can probably blow up on TikTok if they didn't have me as suppressed as they do. Like my TikTok videos typically get on the regular about 200 views. That's it. Versus people who are doing dances and stuff. I mean, there are some people who get big, but I talk too much about against the system, and a lot of us on left TikTok, 200, 300, 400 views, maybe 1,000 views max. That's it. It's not much. So yeah, maybe I should do a completely different thing to throw off the algorithm, but I just don't feel like it. But yeah. Anywho. So with that being said, also just to let you guys know, on the 16th, Rome is doing my comrade Rome from RBN is doing a mutual aid event. So if you guys would like to, you guys can also donate to his tour for the poor. And then also we are trying to do another mutual aid event here in Orlando. So I'll share that as well. But yes, he is doing another tour for poor. So I will put the Cash App in there if you guys want to help out with that. Here is also for his PayPal. And then also his Venmo. But for us at RBN Orlando chapter, we're doing for our chapter, you guys can go to $ Orlando RBN if you would like to. And so then we're also going to be doing an event for our mutual aid event, trying to do something in February, or whenever we can actually meet and get that together. But we all have the funds ready. So if you guys would like to, you guys can contribute to Orlando RBN if you guys would like to. But yes, we're trying to do as much mutual aid as we possibly can, especially now that it's 2025. And then Robbie asked, what's Rome's legal situation? Can you talk about it? No, I can't. And so I'll put it this way. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. I rather keep my mouth shut and assist him in being able to make a stronger case then say exactly what it is, and then it gets misconstrued or it gets twisted, and then next thing you know, it makes it worse for him. So that's why I don't talk about the details. This is why those of us at RBN do not talk about the details. So because we want him, you know, we want him back with us safe and sound. That's why. So just let you guys know that. And also, I talked about it before, but I'm trying to get a kidney transplant. So if you guys would like to spread that word out as well. Let me share this. So if you guys would like to sign up to see if you can be a donor, or if you guys know somebody that wants to, then here is the link. You know, of course, I am 40 years old, type O positive blood type. So if you guys would like to, you guys can also go there to check to see if you may be a good candidate. So yeah, so we have that there too. So thank you very much to everybody. All right, so like I said, I'm gonna head on out. But I will see you guys on Tuesday once again, and then am I going live on RBN tomorrow? I should. In fact, there's a story that I meant to talk about this story. You know what? I'm gonna talk about the story tomorrow. It has to do with healthcare. In fact, yeah, I'll make that a segment for tomorrow. It'll be more powerful that way too. And yeah, but it's a segment about healthcare that I think it kind of reminds you of John Q. And I want to talk about it. It's something that happened recently. So yeah, we'll talk about that. Okay. Because I think it is important that we keep this conversation going. Like whoever was the shooter, they wanted healthcare to be one of the biggest conversations in the country. We need to keep up that conversation about healthcare, right? Because that health is wealth, and we need to talk about it. Okay, this is a class war, and we won't lose it. We need to make sure that the entire country is taken care of and as healthy and as happy as possible. That's one of my missions. So with that being said, I'm going to head out. Like I said a million times before. Oh yeah, that thing about Aubrey Plaza's what's it, husband or ex-husband, about him, you know, taking his own life. Yeah, that's crazy. Hemp car. Yeah. Ooh. But like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them, like I always say. But also be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. And be kind to others. Especially make it your business this year to be kind in a way that you know that saves lives. Okay? Because that's what it's all about. Be as loving as you possibly can. Thank you so much to Shane Graham of Ethos Media Network for joining me for this well-needed conversation. I hope that the positive side of our predictions come true and the negative side of our predictions are held at bay. All right, everybody. Time for me to go. Take it away, Fluffy JB. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.